Okay, and we're live. We're going to be going over Ethan Klein's latest podcast video, just because I think it's kind of fun to do. So we'll see what he does. I watched a little bit of it, and it gets a little bit dark. A lot of bullying coming out of Ethan Klein and his crew, but like, what else can I really expect, right? So anyway, just sit back, relax. This isn't going to be too serious of a video. We're just going to be finishing up this drama, since this was kind of something that I was talking about while Ethan was on break, and now that he's back, we might as well get kind of the second part to the whole Aubrey Smalls and Mika's rhetoric stuff. So let's get into it. Okay, so here is Ethan Klein, and responding to the haters that waited for me to go on break. H3 show number 96. Only 96 episodes of this thing. Interesting. So yeah, a bunch of, let's see. The entire episode is 4 hours, 15 minutes long. An hour into it, he starts talking about his haters. So we'll just start there. So this is our response to Aubrey.
Into this first hater award. Aubrey.
Oh boy.
Now, if you don't remember Aubrey, let me refresh you. He is a little person and an activist. And there was a time during Jimmy Lee's arc on this show where he was using the M word, which is really derogatory for little people. And we were trying to break through to him that he should not use that language anymore. Aubrey was a fan of the show at the time, and he wrote in wanting to participate in educating Jimmy Lee. Let's start by showing you the video he put out, and then we'll go over everything else. Yeah.
So there was a podcast that I was on one time, and it was a horrible experience, and it's why I'm never going to go on another podcast again. And no, I will not be naming the podcast, even though some of you definitely know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay, so Ethan says that he's trying to like educate Jimmy Lee and how derogatory of a word the M word is that Jimmy Lee was using. Let's just really quick go back to the original episode where Aubrey appeared and take a look at kind of the context that Aubrey shows up on this show.
And a surprise call, which will shock you. It must have been like 3 hours. Because let's see what happens when my dad meets Jimmy Lee. Now, how long did we film for, Ian? It was like, must have been like 3 hours, right?
Yeah, around there.
Yeah, something like that.
So we had games prepared for them, quizzes, tests, and a surprise call, which will shock you.
And a surprise call, which will shock you. So right off the bat, this doesn't really seem like kind of the educational type of content that Ethan is going to try to frame it as in this newest episode of his podcast. It seems kind of like, you know, a kind of YouTube version of Howard Stern, where they're getting these shocking calls to get people to tune in and be like, whoa, what is going on? So yes, we have this surprise call that is going to shock you. Let's just let it play.
That's in this edit, right, Cam?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Oh boy.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
I'm nervous to show this, guys. I'll be honest. So they came. This is a 10-minute edit of the 3 hours. Like I said, the full 2 hour unabridged version, director's cut, is on for members,
Or will be, to be clear.
or will be. Okay. And so I don't know, what was the experience like for you guys? Because at one moment I had to step out to do the First We Feast. I was there in the beginning and end. Do you guys want to put some context to this?
Somebody else is probably. Listen, I have to come clean. Jimmy Lee is my kryptonite, man. I can't with that man. I really can't. And I mean, I know he knows that, because every time he sees me, he's like, oh, this guy hates me, doesn't he? And I have to be like, no. But it's not really so much hate Jimmy as much as like, I can't be in the same room as you for longer than like 2 minutes. Like, you're you're just a singularity of cringe for me. Like, and I have a high tolerance for cringe, but I don't know. It's just something about Jimmy.
Yeah.
It's just really.
It was nice meeting.
It's brutal. It was brutal.
It was,
Oh yeah, his kids were there.
yeah, it was nice
His
meeting.
kids were really nice. And
Super
totally
well
normal.
Very nice.
Absolutely.
Nice.
No, he's an enigma.
Peace and love, peace and love. We're gonna say the M word, but it's all in peace and love. We're gonna sue you if you don't apologize, but peace and love, peace and love.
I don't know.
It's gotta all be the mother, as far
Yeah,
as
she must
like-
be a. He says
Yeah.
she's a saint.
Everybody
Yeah,
says
yeah,
that, and I absolutely believe it. And yeah, again, it's not that I hate the man. I do think he has a good heart, but it's just the just giga level of unawareness that he possesses. It's kryptonite
Yeah.
to me. Like I just can't.
Well, Cam and I have to deal with it when we go home because he texts us still
Yeah.
30 times a day the same fucking picture that we've seen a million times.
Yeah, he was trying to get my phone number. I said absolutely not. You will never get my phone number, Jimmy.
And he spams us, and it's just getting to a point where it's very frustrating.
No, I mean, I don't mind talking to him when he's out of character as much, but you know, he does send a lot to us.
He's always
And I
on
don't-
though.
I just ignore a lot of.
Yeah.
No,
30
I mean,
times a
when the cameras were off and he was over here talking to his family, he was nice.
Right.
Very nice.
Yeah,
to us.
personally, I like him, but
I like Jimmy. He's a good man.
it is a lot. I had to walk away, and I have to commend Ian for really like taking charge with the segment because a few of us just couldn't deal with it. I don't think we had to keep leaving in different at different times.
But my problem with Jimmy at this point is that we invested a lot in this whole redemption arc for Jimmy. People said it couldn't be done, and yet
Should have listened.
yet we did. We tried, and there was a moment where he was redeemed,
It did seem that way.
and we were all on board with the Jimmy train. And then he posts this video on Instagram, that and a bunch of other stuff, and he goes, "This was kind of a big factor in this video where he says, can I say the M word? Is that I can say it in context of this, right?
What?
Of the little people slur."
Oh, the M word.
Yeah, I can say that, right? He goes, man, I hate midgets. He has this whole bit. And we're like, Jimmy, you can't say that word. You have to say little people, and also just don't, like, it's just a weird thing, bro. Like, I hate midgets, man.
Well,
Yeah, Ethan he's so against saying the M word, but he just has to say the real thing so that you get the authenticity of repeating Jimmy Lee's joke back. Anyway, so yeah. I mean, Ethan and I'm just showing you guys this context because Ethan and his crew will then say, well, this whole entire segment was supposed to be educational. But Ethan has literally said, like, the reason I'm showing you this is to illustrate the idea that this was a bit to try to get Jimmy. And Ethan even says himself that this is a redemption arc that he is kind of planning for Jimmy. It's like Jimmy is like Truman in the Truman Show, and Ethan's just pulling the strings, and he has, like, you know, it's not cameras in every aspect of his life, but Ethan has found this guy that he wants to mold and just farm content off of. And it's this really abrasive comedian. And I think Ethan kind of sees himself in that kind of abrasive comedy that Ethan likes to exist in. He likes being that kind of like shock comic. I think he kind of finds that admirable. And he's like, this is the redemption arc that we've planned for Jimmy. And this is going to be part of that redemption arc where, even though Jimmy says these derogatory jokes about little people, we're going to like confront him with a little person, and then the results are going to be hilarious. Like, this is like a 90s comedy where it's like, oh my God, you said you hate little people, and now here's a surprise, here's a little person, and then like hijinks ensues. That's literally what Ethan Klein is doing. It's like straight out of an Adam Sandler movie.
the other thing is I think he's adapted a little bit of an ego now.
Right, he's big time.
Right. So it's a lot on top of his histrionic personality disorder, as he would say.
So anyway, we tried to confront him on that, and like the whole thing was like, dude, there's certain brands of comedy you just have to stop doing. And you know, everyone thought I said N-word. No. Back it up. I said M.
Michael.
As in
Mega.
Marshall Mathers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mamma mia.
Eminem. Yeah. So y'all thought I was about to drop that N-bomb, huh?
Well, I just misheard you.
After we barely survived the weekend, if you guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to say anymore.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time Ethan dropped the N-word on air in the name of giving authentic context to the segment that he's bringing on.
But if you know, you know. I'm just happy to be here, guys.
Alhamdulillah.
So funny. He goes, Everyone heard the N-word. Thank you, Carlos. That's
Is that
Carlos.
you?
That's so funny. My entire audience thought that I was going to say the N-word live on my podcast. He's like, wow, why would you guys think that? That's so weird. That's so weird that you think I would just say the N-word like that.
Emphasizing the sound? Okay, got it. How did you identify that? So
I know it's Carlos just from that one
yeah, no, me too.
split second. And you know, the problem is that we really thought we were making progress, and then he just busts down the door with like just super offensive stuff, and it's like, Jimmy, I just don't know. I don't know if we can do it.
Dude, he walked in making a uncomfortable joke.
What did he say?
It was towards Lena, right, AB?
Wait, what? What did he say, Lena?
Lena, what did he tell you? I forget.
He asked if I'm Arab, and I said yes, and he put his hands up like that.
Okay, he goes, don't shoot.
Oh,
He goes-
that's a classic.
He
That's
said,
a
don't
classic.
shoot.
And then
he does that to any minority.
And then he said something about Sam too. What did he?
Wait, what?
Oh,
He just asked if I'd ever heard of the sun.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's all classic, Jimmy.
Because I'm pale. I don't know.
There's no
that-
turning him off. man.
Were you offended by that, Lena?
No, I
Yeah.
it was expected.
Yeah, you expect kind of expect that harassment.
Wow, Islamophobia expected. I mean, what was Ethan doing with this guy? The guy's so gross. He's like insulting everyone. I mean, I know that his whole shtick is that he's an insult comic, but he's just insulting everyone on the cast. I don't know. Like, why didn't you just bring in some Muslim people to like as a gotcha moment?
When Jimmy's around. But that's kind of that's a funny bit because he literally says that to any minority. It's like, bro, think about what you're actually saying. Every minority is a criminal. Hey, don't rob me. What are you, Mexican? Hey,
Don't shoot.
And then his thing is a son's bitch. It's son's bitch.
I hate midgets, man. Them sons of bitches. Sons of bitch.
Son's bitch.
I think he was making progress after we talked to him.
Yes.
And then he started on Cameo and started to get more people who probably were encouraging him to make distasteful jokes about their friends. And then he's
Right.
like, oh, people love this shit. I'm going back to the Don Rickles.
The
Style.
the off the rails he called in the first time in the restaurant. That was gold. That was fantastic. He wasn't offending anyone.
So funny.
It was great. And then it just kind of went downhill from there.
I think you're onto something, AB. And also, he's getting lots of DMs with people like, tell me a joke,
Yeah.
and they get posted to the subreddit.
Right.
Ugh. So I don't know. What do you guys tell me? We'll have to take a poll. Let's do a poll right now, and then after the segment. So, do you like Jimmy Lee? Yes or no? Right? Just simple. And my poor dad, man. I hope he got out of this. Okay. I thought my dad.
For the most part, he was fine. It was all Jimmy.
Okay,
And it's
okay.
just again there is a moment, and unfortunately, it might be the worst moment.
It was bad. I
whole
remember.
thing,
It was
but-
bad. It was so bad.
Do you like Jimmy Lee? Yes. No.
I think your dad looked at it more of like he was a guest here and he was hosting him and was trying to make him feel comfortable at different points.
Well, I'll be honest. We hit him with a. I don't know if it's a gotcha, but it was. What did I do?
That wasn't me. I don't know.
They said don't spoil it.
Oh.
Oh. I'm giving context.
They're right though. Like, it's better if it just happens.
I'm voting yes, even though, you know.
It's very split. We're at about 50-50.
Okay, so there you go. The majority are saying yes. So Jimmy, that's pretty good.
Oh my god. Okay, let's just get into it. Anyway, I mean, what has he said so far? He's like, we have a surprise call that's gonna shock you. This was a 3-hour-long segment that we edited down to 10 minutes. So always just remember that there was a lot of stuff edited out to make it look like Jimmy actually learned a lesson, and Ethan will actually. Like, even Ethan will end up saying after, like, later on in the episode, wow, you really edited that to make it look like Jimmy kind of had a redemption there. So that goes along with the thing that he's saying where he's like, we need to make Jimmy look like he had a redemption narrative. And then Ethan said, even this been saying, like, I'm nervous to show this, but he's going to do it anyway.
51% saying yes.
So, like, again, none of this is pointing to being like, this is an educational segment, but let's just get into the introduction and then we'll kind of go back to the most current episode and see kind of the difference in what Ethan's talking about there versus how it was treated on the actual podcast.
Yes, I mean, that's powerful stuff. Okay.
Powerful stuff.
So let's watch this, and then we'll do a poll afterwards and see if it moved any minds here.
I guess let me end the poll because I don't want people voting during this.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. We want to keep this pure.
All right, guys, without further ado, it's The Elderlies starring Jimmy Lee, the Jersey Outlaw, and Gary Klein. Here we go.
Hey, Gary, Jimmy Lee, very nice to meet you.
Gary Klein, I am Ethan's father. Great to meet you.
Very nice to meet you. We're going to have to, go in to do the hair makeup, get the hairline right, the makeup right. Little powder, little paint makes me what I ain't.
Okay.
How about you joining in and doing it with me?
That'd be great. I don't need help.
The title is sarcastic. Okay, no worry. Oh my god, dude. I'm not gonna fucking like give tone indicators online anymore. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if that's an ableist thing of me to do, for me to not do tone indicators.
Help with the hairline, but the rest of the stuff definitely I could use. So
Let's do it.
okay, let's go.
The viewing, Gary's in about 2 hours for both of us.
Okay, no pain yet.
Throw dirt on you Tuesday, bury me Wednesday.
I actually did some research on you because I couldn't actually believe you were a dentist, and it's not going to come as a surprise to you, but you are actually a dentist with
I wasn't aware. I was
practices.
I was aware I had histrionic personality disorder, but I wasn't aware I was a dentist.
First of
Do you
many.
know, Gary, what histrionic personality disorder is?
I could probably make a good guess. You tend to be histrionic all the time?
Gary, you look marvelous. It looks just like you.
Well, thank you. I feel at least 6 months younger now. 3, 2, 1. Jimmy, do you not know the numbers?
3, 2, 1.
There we go.
1, 2, 3. No! Olivia! I knew not to let you do my hairline.
I'm about to lose all my gray.
I want Gary non-gray for this episode. Olivia, no lower. Well, I'm going to hold it. Is it even right now? That's it, Olivia. Oh.
Thank you.
Woo! All right, now. No, Ethan! It's pretty good. So hold on. It's too low.
Well, thank you.
Dan, it's too low. Gary's not gray anymore. Gary looks fucking
I look like I have something on my head. I'm not sure what it is.
Welcome, everybody, to The Elderlies, starring Gary Klein and Jimmy Lee, the Jersey Outlaw. Two of the great comedic minds, comedy titans, meet together at last. To get you guys acquainted, we have arranged a little game. Pull one card, and it's going to explain.
Make an assumption about me. I assume you're a dentist. I assume you're someone with a great hairline. I assume you got a cool LA shirt just to wear out here for the trip.
Correct.
And I assume you're going to have a great time out here in Los Angeles.
Well, that's a matter of opinion.
Well,
my wife's.
So pleasant. Think of something that you dislike that most people love.
Zach's personality.
Beach balls at a baseball game.
Yes.
So now I want you guys to create a secret handshake together.
1, 2, 3, and then 4. And that's just Jimmy and Gary's handshake.
There is a house in New Orleans. They call the rising sun.
Taking care of business and working overtime. Zach, work out. Get that guitar, Zach. Ooh,
The hair
Benny
dye
boy.
is not affecting our memory.
The hair dye is not affecting our memories.
Under the laptop in front of Gary are instructions on how to open the show document.
Hey, Kolb, go get my readers. I'll help Gary. I can't see. My
I've
readers.
fallen, and I can't get up.
That's Adobe, Gary.
Hey!
Oh my goodness.
Now what do we do?
By the way, how long did it take them to get logged in?
I think it was like, Cam, do you
Okay.
was it like 10
I'm
minutes?
gonna skip a little bit.
Hold on, I'll look.
Maybe.
This is
Oh,
very
yeah, all they had to
boring.
do- My dad.
Dude, who thought it would be a good idea to get two unfunny old people and just make them be friends with each other? That's like the most boring idea for a show. Like, they don't even have any kind of chemistry whatsoever. It's not like they were friends and they have these fun interactions that they're having. Oh my god, Ethan is really not a funny person.
And there was the two. It really threw me off. I was like, yeah. And
Go wrong.
so
Next-
far,
Zach, I love
everyone's having a good time. So
Well, that
far,
was-
so good, right?
Yeah, it's going great. What could possibly go wrong?
So
next
far,
few
so
minutes?
good. Everyone's having a good time.
Okay, so just one more thing. When we're going to be looking at the context of this was an educational segment, and bringing Aubrey Smalls on was an educational segment. Ethan and Dan are like, so far so good, right? And Dan's like, yeah, what could possibly go wrong? Very obviously extremely tongue-in-cheek, because they know that it's like a car crash. The actual conversation with Aubrey Smalls is like a car crash. And this is the educational segment that they're having on how to educate their audience about people with dwarfism. No, it's obviously a joke segment about a bigoted comedian getting confronted by a representative of a community that he's bigoted against, that he's been targeting with his jokes. And that's that like clash is the joke that they're doing on this podcast right now. So it is being set up as a joke. It is being set up as something that you need to be dreading, like some kind of awkward conversation or situation that you'd see in like a 90s movie. As I said before, it's like, oh my God, he doesn't know that like he said racist things and his son's girlfriend is actually black. Oh no, what? That's gonna be so awkward. It's not something to educate the like bigoted father-in-law on. It's like, actually, like, you say that black people are worse than white people, but I have a black girlfriend and she's gonna come over and she's gonna educate you on things. No, it's a setup to be like, oh, you're so bigoted, and isn't this an awkward situation now? So so far there has been nothing in the vibe of this show to show this as an educational moment whatsoever. Okay, so I just want you guys to keep that in mind when we go back to the future and the most current episode of this podcast, where they're like, we use the utmost of integrity and we let Aubrey know exactly what was going to happen. And so now when he says he feels bad about this podcast, all that he's doing is trying to jump on this hate train to get a little bit of clout by targeting Ethan Klein and saying that he had a bad experience on the podcast when he had a great experience, and he had such a good experience that he told us he had a good experience. Okay, so just keep that in mind. We're almost done with the introduction to this segment.
Here we go.
Zach, I love it.
Ethan watched Get Out and thought the main character was overreacting. God damn it, Spencer. Oh my God.
I
love you more.
You like my hairline, Zach?
It's fantastic, Jimmy.
It's receding like my jokes.
Hey.
But Gary, I'll say to you, I hope you jump on your bike and there's no seat. And that could hurt a mother. No, Danny's not going to hurt his mother. Just take a Viagra and chill. Okay? Gary, today, you finally found the rabbi and you said, I'll join him, and you went and became a Jew. Wonderful to meet you.
Jimmy, I gotta ask. So you said that your issue with people these days is that they're a little too sensitive. Is that what you said?
Yes.
We've prepared a little something.
Listen, you're shrinking. Did you take preparation H?
I hate fucking midgets, man.
Okay, so just again, this isn't like a compilation to show bigotedness against little people so that every one of these like bigoted takes could be corrected. What it's doing is it's kind of stacking the deck to get Jimmy. It's like kind of setting a trap, right? You are luring Jimmy to the most bigoted point on the cliff so that it's even more funny when you bring on the person that he's being bigoted against. So they are stacking the deck right now. They are kind of egging Jimmy on. It's like, here's a compilation of everything dumb you said. What do you think about that? And he's like, yeah, I still agree with it. Yeah, FM words. And then they're like, well, you say FM words. Guess what? We have an M word right here for you. It's giving me like vibes of like Howard Stern, kind of just these late night shows where they do shitty comedy, but it's just a guy that's bigoted against a representative who's actually trying to come on to correct let's just put this into even more context. Aubrey Smalls saw this guy being bigoted and he's like, I would love to come on to the show to actually talk about the issues that little people experience and try to give little people representation on your massive show, because so far all you've been doing is having this bigoted guy come on and saying bigoted jokes against little people. And sure, you laugh at him and you're like, oh, that's just Jimmy. Isn't he such a quack? He's so funny, right? But not because of his jokes. He's just funny because of how out of touch he is. But they don't actually have any kind of real pushback or setting the record correct on it at all. All they do is like point and laugh. They're like, haha, you're such a racist old man. Isn't that hilarious, guys? All right, well, let's move on to the next segment. And Aubrey's like, that's kind of gross. Like, sure, you're platforming the guy in kind of a cynical way. You're not endorsing everything that he's saying, but you're not really pushing back against anything that he's saying either. So let me come on the show and let me be like, okay, well, a lot of things about little people have been said on this show. Let me actually be a representation of little people. And instead, what he gets is he is a punchline, and he is in direct confrontation with Jimmy Lee and whatever, Ethan's dad, Gary Klein. And he has to have this kind of like aggressive back and forth with the people. And not only that, not only is he having this aggressive back and forth with these guys, the entire setup of that segment on this current show is that it's kind of a joke to Jimmy Lee's redemption arc, as Ethan Klein puts it. So let's just keep in mind, there are two segments, right? There were two segments Aubrey Smalls was on. The first segment was when he was doing this interview with Jimmy Lee and Gary Klein. He was doing that conversation with them. The second segment is he calls in a few days later and he talks with Ethan Klein about it, because he's like, that was not a good experience. Let me actually come on to the real show and have a real conversation with Ethan Klein where I'm not like in this very antagonistic dynamic between myself and these two guys that were like targeting people like me. Let me come on to the real show and actually kind of promote positive representation of little people and promote my movie that I'm working on. And then while he's watching this podcast, while he's watching the one we're watching right now, he sees that the entire segment where he was arguing with Jimmy Lee and Gary Klein was used as a joke. As I said before, the punchline of Jimmy Lee's character redemption arc. So they set up Jimmy Lee's character redemption arc, and it's like, yeah, he's gonna make it. Oh, he's bigoted against little people. And then like that's kind of the punchline, right? Oh, that Jimmy, he never changes. And it's like some kind of sitcom episode where you think the character is gonna change, but then they actually don't change, and everything goes back to the way it was. It's like he's actually is kind of like an Always Sunny in Philadelphia character.
I don't want anybody sniffing around my fly unless they're serious.
I need to confront you on something, okay?
I know which one it was.
Which one?
I don't like midgets, Ethan.
Oh,
I can't
stop
hide
it.
my feelings. Don't get mad. I just never liked them.
The word midgets is very offensive, okay? We don't use that word anymore.
I thought it was a pretty good joke. Jolly Roger liked it. Pretty funny. It's just an old style joke. That's really what it was.
What'd you think of that, Gary?
All right, so we planned an intervention for the whole midget thing, and I was expecting.
Yeah, that's such an offensive word to little people that Jimmy Lee shouldn't be using it anymore, but Ethan's gonna use it, just because he wants to accurately describe the context that Jimmy Lee is using it in. Not because Ethan enjoys using that word, but because he wants to be an accurate descriptor of what's happening around him.
I think my dad, to kind of ride for the social issue. He thought that was a highlight reel. He's clapping, so just praise yourself, guys. Go easy on my dad, please.
Some classic offensive humor. I think it's very clever and very.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jake. Like, why would he say, oh, I would never use the N-word, but he uses the M-word too? And we know the answer. He uses both of them, but he knows that, like, if he says the actual N-word out loud, then he would get way more flack than saying the M-word. But yeah, like, if he's in favor of saying slurs to accurately describe the context of someone's joke or to quote someone, then why wouldn't he say the N-word? Why doesn't he say the N-word out loud? And he has said that out loud before, but he got a ton of pushback on it, and he kind of learned his lesson. And you can say that maybe he's learned his lesson now, but we'll see.
Smart, because if you're going to go after a minority group, who is less apt to hurt you than midgets or little people, right? You make fun of other groups. They have big, serious, threatening people, not midgets. What are they going to do? Come up and kick you in the knee or something? That's
okay. I'm really glad you said that, Gary, because we actually.
Okay, so clearly he failed. He failed the test. But actually, the worst part is, guys, what comes next. And boy, I just noticed their face. I mean,
And in the role of a lifetime, Gary.
All right, I'm just going to play it. Everybody, tighten your sphincter.
Actually have a little person on the call. They've been listening. And so Dan is going to bring them in right now, and we can sort of open a dialogue here. Okay. So this is Aubrey.
So far, so good.
Gary.
Hello, Aubrey.
Hi, Gary.
How you doing?
Okay, so that's also something that we should point out. just because I think it's hilarious how the narrative has changed. So they're like, oh, well, I'm glad you said that you actually like are fine with targeting little people because we have a little person right here for you to talk to right now. And then what do? Immediately they zoom in on the faces. Ethan's laughing right now. When they zoom in on Jimmy Lee's face, you can hear the crew member laughing in the background. So let's just rewind that one more time.
Sort of open a dialogue here. Okay. So this is Aubrey.
So far, so good.
Gary.
Hello, Aubrey.
Hi, Gary.
How you doing?
How you doing, kid?
Yeah, love you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Even though you think I would come up and kick you in the shins.
Well, I have pretty low shins too, so.
And you guys are both pretty short, so I wouldn't really be coming after our community.
Ooh. Yeah, so this is Aubrey, a comedian who wrote to us a few weeks ago.
They posted on the subreddit, actually.
So he posted on the subreddit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. And he was saying that, he could talk to us about this whole Jimmy Lee midget arc.
Right.
Little people arc.
Oh yeah, he's so politically correct. He's so sensitive.
And so we had planned this call in, and the setup was just really, really rough, man. But here it goes. Let's see if either of them are going to learn anything. Let's see.
Okay, so yeah, just once again, this isn't about educating Ethan Klein's audience. It isn't against having like little people representation on Ethan Klein's stream. It's about, are these two bigots that I'm platforming going to learn anything? And that's the joke. Oh, well, they did learn something, in which case you have this kind of redemption arc, or they didn't learn anything, and you can be like, that's old Jimmy. He's stuck in his bigoted ways, never gonna learn anything. Yeah. Okay, we'll watch this a little bit more, and then just the other thing is Ethan's like, wow, that was such a rough setup, right? And it's like, you orchestrated this setup from the beginning. You knew what was going to happen. And it's so funny how later on he'll be like, oh yeah, Aubrey agreed to that setup. Aubrey agreed to come on into this very like adversarial environment where he's literally getting kind of ridiculed because of who he was born as while he's in the waiting room of this call. And now he has to come on to these guys that were just making fun of his status as a little person and kind of come into this extremely kind of like confrontational environment. And he says that, Aubrey signed up for that. But then he says, wow, that was a really rough setup. So it's like, which is it? Did he sign up for it? Or were you surprised at how rough the setup was? And you're like playing that up for jokes. So, okay, well, we can continue this later. But let's get into the actual kind of main segment of this. So this is Ethan Klein. How many years later? So this was 2 days ago, and this was 2 years ago. So this is Ethan Klein 2 years later. Wow. Look at how much weight he's lost.
But they had a segment one time with the podcast. So there was a podcast that I was on one time, and it was a horrible experience. And it's why I'm never going to go on another podcast again. And no, I will not be naming the podcast, even though some of you definitely know what I'm talking about. But they had a segment one time with the podcast owner's dad and some comedian who, mind you, the same podcast is now accusing of essay years later. But
what is that? Did I do the essay? Like, what's the point of saying that? That he was on my show a few years ago, so then I like, what the fuck? Anyway, from the beginning, he's trying to bitch out and be like, I'm not going to say the show, so they can't respond to me. It's like, everybody knows exactly what you're talking about, dude. Okay, let's stop doing some bullshit, cowardly shit like that. Okay, everybody knows you're talking about us, so let's just say what you want and stop being a baby. All right, go ahead.
the comedian one day was talking in a bit about how he has a phobia of little people. And they were going on and on about a lot of miseducation around dwarfism in general. So I was like, oh my God, this is the perfect time to educate people. We love a good educational moment, especially as a viewer at the time, with dwarfism. So I wrote on their subreddit, I was like, hey, I'm a filmmaker and educator. I would love to come on and educate you guys and talk about the dwarfism community and specifically the phobia of little people, since I know that's such a gray area for a lot of people. So the post blew up. All of the fans of the show were like, we would love to see Aubrey on the show. They reached out, and then next thing you know, I'm in the waiting room the next episode to talk to the comedian and the podcast owner's dad. And I thought this was going to be an educational little moment, but I was coming on to be a bit. They essentially had, leading up to my appearance, a whole compilation.
That's an outright malicious lie. That's provable. I don't know why he's doing this. It's disgusting, especially considering, like...
So saying Aubrey was coming on to be a bit is a malicious lie is interesting, considering that you literally had him on to kind of be the punchline to your whole redemption arc of Jimmy Lee and that whole, like, little people arc that Jimmy Lee was going on. I mean, you brought him on. It was a humorous segment. At least that was the context in which it was portrayed. Like, the entire crew is laughing at it. You're like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. Like, my dad and Jimmy Lee are so bigoted. Wow, you did a great job editing that. I mean, because that was a really rough interview, but you got it down to a pretty smooth 10 minutes. So, like, amazing job editing that. You got what was an extremely rough interview down to like a polished 10 minutes. And now Ethan saying that Aubrey saying that he was a bit on that podcast is a malicious lie, which is hilarious.
His whole point is like activism. And I feel like it was actually like a wholesome, good moment. And I mean, in terms of like teaching people about like a prejudice against little people, that was, and to imply that that wasn't the intention and that it was to bring him on and humiliate him or something is just a malicious outright lie that I will prove to you. But I'm going to continue watching his video, and then I'll show you everything we've got.
Of this guy, all the times that he said publicly on the internet that he's afraid of little people, and just a lot of derogatory jokes about little people. And then they were like, and drum roll, we have a little person to surprise you. And they brought me in with basically no warning.
Why?
I mean, no warning.
Why would you say that?
That's crazy.
When it's so... there's so many receipts, dude. Like, what are you doing?
You guys don't
This
remember?
is so embarrassing.
You don't remember us dragging him in?
What does he mean, no warning? Like,
I don't know.
Like we had him blindfolded and we walked him in?
The warning existed. It was in writing.
We're going to show you guys. You're going to laugh when you see all this.
What are you doing?
The part that pisses me off, though, is like, it's such a transparent attempt to cash in on all the people that hate me on TikTok. Like, it's
So this is funny. Ethan's like, why are you criticizing me? You have to be lying. It's not possible that you had a bad experience on my show. It's actually that you are being malicious and cashing in on the hatred that I got. So instead of getting 20,000 views on a TikTok video, you're going to get 120,000 views. What is that? An extra like $20? I don't know the monetary value of TikTok views. It's like, you're cashing in. You sold your soul to big TikTok views. It's like, dude, get the fuck over yourself. People are going to criticize you. You don't have to throw a hissy fit every time someone records like a 2-minute long video about you on TikTok. Holy shit, it's actually crazy. The second thing is, Aubrey's like, they brought me on with basically no warning. I mean, they kind of cut him off, but was it no warning for Aubrey, or was it no warning for the comedians? Because if it's no warning for Jimmy Lee and Gary Klein, that's absolutely true. I do think that Aubrey had warning, so if that's what he's talking about, then that's not really true. Aubrey coming on the show and saying that he had no warning is not exactly true, right? As Ethan's going to show, like, he signed on to talk with Jimmy Lee. He signed on knowing that Jimmy Lee made malicious jokes. Obviously, Jimmy Lee had no warning, and so Aubrey probably was expecting much different tone when he got on the conversation. So, for example, if the guys told Jimmy Lee, you've been doing bigoted jokes towards little people, we have a representative of the little people community on, and he's going to kind of like educate you and the audience on little people because you've been like very demeaning to them. That would be a much different mood than being like egging Jimmy on to say bigoted jokes against little people, and then all of a sudden being like, well, you think that little people are subhuman. Here's a little person for you now. And then they like part the red curtain. Aubrey comes out, and Jimmy's like, oh, and they zoom in on his face, and that's the money shot that Ethan's looking for, right? Jimmy Lee's face when he's confronted with his own bigotry. So it's totally valid to say that you brought me on with no warning to the people that I was talking with, which I think is an extremely valid criticism. If you are signing on, if you see there's a bigoted comedian on a show that you know doesn't share that comedian's values, and you're like, guys, let me on the show. I'm going to talk to this comedian. I think we can have a great segment where I come out the other end and everyone learns stuff. Maybe the comedian's going to say bigoted, but at least I can push back against that. Wouldn't you expect the showrunners tell the comedian that that's a segment that's going to be happening, rather than them surprising that comedian by egging him on to do bigoted jokes against you and then being like, and surprise, here's someone that you've been demeaning this entire time? Wouldn't you expect the former rather than the latter? Wouldn't you expect them to be like, okay, like, you've been doing jokes, here's someone that's going to talk with you about this thing, and we're gonna like hash this out on this segment, rather than a split-second surprise? So when these guys are like, Aubrey's lying about being surprised by having no warning about being on with Jimmy, it's like, he's not talking about himself. He's talking about how the comedian had no warning that he was gonna have a conversation with Aubrey. So these guys, like, they're actually fucking morons. And like, the more I watch Ethan Klein and the rest of his crew, the dumber I think they actually are. And they're so thin-skinned too. Like, I know Ethan's a drama channel and this is kind of his bread and butter, but it's just gotten to a point where you say any little thing about them and they will literally devote hours of their time to covering your content. And it's like, do you not have any better stuff to do with your time? Like, you're a major show. I know you cover like big YouTube drama. Is there no other big YouTube drama than covering a guy who had like 120K views on his TikTok? Holy shit. Let's just run this back one more time, where they're like, oh, I'm so disappointed in you, Aubrey. You said you had you said there was no warning for the interview. It's like, yes, there was no warning for Jimmy Lee and Gary Klein.
Why?
I mean, no warning.
The times that he said publicly on the internet that he's afraid of little people, and just a lot of derogatory jokes about little people. And then they were like, and drum roll, we have a little person to surprise you. And they brought me in with basically no warning.
Why?
Yeah, so like the context of that does make it seem like it's like they brought me in with no warning for the comedian, because they said, and drum roll, here's a little person to surprise you. So it's literally like the fucking, there's no warning for, there's no warning. They surprise the comedians. There's no warning for the comedians. Okay. Let's just watch this really quick to get kind of the full, I know Ethan's going to play it, but.
Dad and some comedian who, mind you, the same podcast is now accusing of SA years later. But the
oh, so they're saying that oh, okay. So I didn't really catch that on the first time, but he's saying that they brought, like, they were platforming a comedian, and now that podcast, so the H3 podcast, is accusing Jimmy Lee of SA, which, you know, trying to stay monetized, boys, but let me know, is that true? Like, I don't really know. I don't watch H3 that much, but let me know if that's true, or like what the deal with that is.
The same podcast is now accusing of SA years later. But the comedian one day was talking in a bit about how he has a phobia of little people. And they were going on and on about a lot of miseducation around dwarfism in general. So I was like, oh my God, this is the perfect time to educate people. We love a good educational moment, especially as a viewer at the time, with dwarfism. So I wrote on their subreddit, I was like, hey, I'm a filmmaker and educator. I would love to come on and educate you guys and talk about the dwarfism community, and specifically the phobia of little people, since I know that's such a gray area for a lot of people. So the post blew up. All the fans of the show were like, we would love to see Aubrey on the show. They reached out, and then next thing you know, I'm in the waiting room the next episode to talk to the comedian and the podcast owner's dad. And I thought this was going to be a educational little moment.
Bro, he groped someone backstage at their live show? What? Is that actually true, though? Or is that just a rumor? Like, I don't want to be... He came into the studio unannounced, and they confronted him that multiple crew members have felt uncomfortable, harassed around. Yeah, none of the crew members seem to like him except Ethan does. They brought him on air and confronted him in front of their... about SA? They confronted him live on air about SA? Holy shit. Why are they even associating with this guy? Like, can you not find a less creepy old decrepit comedian to make fun of?
But I was coming on to be a bit. They essentially had, leading up to my appearance, a whole compilation of this guy, all the times that he said publicly on the internet that he's afraid of little people, and just a lot of derogatory jokes about little people. And then they were like, and drum roll, we have a little person to surprise you. And they brought me in with basically no warning. And the whole bit was basically just about having a little person go against two guys who were just talking about how little people, what are they going to do? Kick you in the shins? And then brought me in. And it just really solidifies the fact that...
Okay, so basically he said, yeah, they brought me in with no warning. And that can be interpreted two ways. Either no warning for myself, which I don't think is true, or no warning for the comedians, which is absolutely true. Like, the whole joke is that the comedians didn't have any warning. And I'm using the term comedians here very loosely. They're comedians in the same way that Joe Rogan is a comedian. And then Aubrey says that the whole segment is having this little guy go against these two bigoted comedians. And that's extremely true. I mean, it was not a educational segment. They didn't really give Aubrey a platform to talk about the challenges that he's experienced due to his dwarfism. It really was the joke of, can Aubrey change the minds of these two old bastards? Like, will he be able to change their minds? And then at the end, they're like, no, Jimmy Lee's mind wasn't changed. And so that's why I think, like, Ethan did a pretty decent job of getting Aubrey back on the show. And I think Ethan himself would say, I wanted Aubrey a chance to actually, like, promote his agenda on my show in a environment that isn't antagonistic against him. So I think, like, I think Ethan bringing Aubrey back on the show is a tacit admission that that was not an educational segment. And we can watch, like, that old podcast where Aubrey made that appearance. We might have to rewatch that podcast, but, you know, I don't want this stream to be like 5 hours long. So let's just keep responding to Ethan's criticism as it comes.
I mean, no warning.
Why would you say that?
That's crazy.
When it's so... there's so many receipts, dude. Like, what are you doing?
You guys don't
This
remember?
is so embarrassing.
You don't remember us dragging him in?
What does he mean, no warning? Like,
I don't know.
Wait, like, we had him blindfolded?
These guys have zero media literacy. It's like he meant the comedians had no warning, not himself. Like, there's two ways you can interpret that sentence. Instead of even thinking about interpreting it the other way, they're just like, what, you said you had no warning? Well, you had tons of warning, and we have emails that shows you had warning. It's like, okay, or he meant that the comedians didn't have any warning, which also makes complete sense in the sentence structure he was using. You guys are, like, completely unable to even like comprehend that that's a possibility.
And we walked him in.
The warning existed. It was in writing.
We're going to show you guys. You're going to laugh when you see all this.
What are you doing?
The part that pisses me off, though, is like, it's such a transparent attempt to cash in on all the people that hate me on TikTok. Like, it's so fucking transparent, bro, that it's pathetic. It's honestly pathetic, man. And so, you know, what I said at the time when I made a story about this is like, this shit, you know, this shit's not paying out anymore. I'm not gonna sit here and let you lie about me. Like, fuck you, dude.
It's so unfortunate because his TikTok is so informational, and he seems to be actually wanting to spread the word, but doing something like this.
I love this dude. They're like, wow, he seems like such a good guy. Like, every context I see him in, he seems like a great person. His TikTok's great, his YouTube's great, he's great on Reddit, he's interacting with the fans. Everyone seems to love him. But when he makes a video criticizing me, it's not me. I'm not the problem. It's everyone else that's wrong. Aubrey must be wrong, even though he's great in all of these other circumstances, except this one thing. This one thing where, like, when it has to do with our show, when he's criticizing our show, that's when that's like, he's just a shit guy. All of that other stuff was a lie, but he's criticizing us now. So that means that It's like, that means that he's actually a really shitty person. He's doing all of this for clout. He didn't have a bad experience on our show. What are you talking about? He said that he loved being on our show. He must be lying now rather than lying back then, even though being on our show was great for his business, great for expanding the network that he has, great for people to get in contact with him and see more of him and watch his content and raise awareness of issues that little people face and raise the amount of publicity that his movies get. It's not any of that. It's that he's lying now for clout. He's actually a scumbag. Dude, these people are so full of themselves. Their egos are like off the wall.
Such a move just to get views. It goes against his whole like thing about education.
He really didn't think I'd respond because like he must have known that we have like can disprove literally everything he said.
Yeah, it makes me really sad just because like we were always on Aubrey's team.
Yeah.
Like we were not on Jimmy's team. That was, you were never used as a bit, and it does hurt.
He was never used as a bit. Were you there in that episode? Were you there in that episode? Because he was pretty clearly used as a bit. Let's just go back to this. Let's go back to this.
Shout out Aubrey, by
I'm just gonna like toggle back and forth, and then eventually we'll work through both of these shows.
By the way.
Shout out.
Oh yeah, here's the post. Maybe many of you may have seen it. It says, Ethan, I'm an actor with dwarfism. I'm currently making a documentary comedy series special about a disability hate group on YouTube that's been cyberbullying me for over a year named Jimmy Lee.
Right.
Just kidding. I would love to call in tomorrow during the Tippy Toes segment and chat about Jimmy's.
Oh, right. The post was actually about the tip.
Right,
thing,
which
but then,
as you guys know,
we knew we had this Jimmy thing planned, and so it ended up.
Dude, I don't even know what they're doing with the copyright thing. Like, I know Ethan maybe has been doing copyright. I've seen some stuff on that, but I just don't know enough to really comment about that. But it is super ironic that Ethan is now copywriting striking people for making videos about his content when that's literally his entire show is making videos about other people's content.
Working out for that.
He says, I want to chat about Jimmy's little people phobia and do some dwarfism representation. So we knew we wanted to get him on the show. This is him, legend. And this is what we did, and I'm so sorry. To him, of course.
Yeah, to him.
But let's see. Does he break through? Let's see.
Jimmy, the comments that you made, you weren't really serious. Like you don't actually dislike little people, right?
This is an act. It's
Exactly,
an act.
exactly.
And I'm a loving, big-hearted, nice guy that does a comedy act, and I don't mean anything I say. No, it's just
Jimmy,
intended to
Harry.
laugh at ourselves, Aubrey. That's all it is.
Right. No, yeah, I am.
I love how
trust me, I grew up-
I love how Jimmy's thing is always we gotta laugh at ourselves. It's like who's ourselves? You're consistently slamming other people only.
I've been performing since in the entertainment industry, in the circus since I was 4. Now I do stand-up comedy. Trust me, I was not offended, and I think I could tell it wasn't really a serious comment to me.
No.
Do you actually know any people with dwarfism?
I have patience.
Okay, who are little people?
And I didn't do that joke on them, Aubrey, in the office, by the way.
Oh, I know, Jim.
Because I'm a dentist in the office, not the comedian.
You do come from a very different generation where there was very different representations, obviously, of little people, even medically speaking.
So you can see clips where Aubrey was really trying to kind of get across, just like setting the record straight on little people, where he's like, little people really don't have the kind of representation, and you just see them in different kinds of like entertainment, and they usually play a very specific role, and we're more than that role. So like you do have kind of snippets of Aubrey. You do have snippets of Aubrey trying to educate people, but it's obviously extremely chopped up. And how much education can you really do when you are in this very antagonistic environment with like Jimmy Lee and Gary Klein, who were literally just making jokes that were bigoted against little people? And I know this is kind of what Aubrey signed up for, but once again, it is a very different environment when the segment is told to the comedians that, you're going to interact with a little person and he's here to educate people and actually be a representative for little people on this show, rather than the setup being, oh, you really hate little people, right? And Jimmy's like, yeah, I hate little people. Well, we have a little person for you right here. Like, that is two very different segments.
doctors used to still use the word midget, even though there's no such thing as a midget. We are people with dwarfism, and there's hundreds of types of dwarfism. So my only question was just if you do know little people and you're not really scared of them, but do you see how maybe that would have like real world implications for a group that has no representation,
I
that is
understand.
ever shown in a sexual or violent manner? Like, so I'm saying, even just as a comedian, I really just don't think that's the lane you want to go down.
Okay, I got you.
Do you see how it's nothing about if I find it offensive?
I understand.
I don't think you're that person, but as someone who's literally making a movie right now about how YouTube allows people to follow us around who sometimes are minors and go around calling us all of these names, but that aren't even names that are reflective of a medical condition, literally just a slur. Like, I just figure that you are someone who doesn't actually hate little people.
I don't hate anybody. And Zach's been telling me to quit for years. I may have to take his advice.
I don't think you should quit, but I definitely think you should realize that comedy can be sustained without literally using someone else as a punching bag. And I think, what do you feel? You can be.
And just one more thing, it's like, this is such a educational segment that they're doing on their show that pretty much everything coming out of Jimmy Lee's mouth is a joke, right? He's like, oh yeah, well, I have patients that are little people, but I don't do jokes on them because I'm a dentist when I'm in the office, not a comedian. I'm a comedian out here. I'm not a dentist in the office. And then what else is he doing? He's like, oh yeah, well, I won't do jokes about little people anymore. I have plenty of jokes about other people. And it's like, Jesus Christ, like, not even Jimmy Lee can be serious in this at all.
Honest, Jimmy.
No, I have plenty of other jokes. I don't have to use the midget joke.
Everyone can be joked about. I just think it's the offhandedness and the fact that you're just quick to move on to another joke where I get followed in stores and I have someone online literally who's been stalking and threatening and harassing me just because I have dwarfism. He calls it Midget Wednesday. And I just don't think you would want to be associated with that.
No, I don't. I'm going to let that one go.
Jimmy, this is an iconic conversation then, you realize.
Well, I'm not ever going to do a little people joke again. We're going to knock that off the dock. We're letting it go after listening to you.
Can you look at me without your sunglasses and give that to me in the camera?
We're swearing off little people jokes.
Oh, even got the term right.
I have a zillion other jokes. I can take the little people jokes out.
We appreciate, your perspective, Aubrey. It's been very informative.
I mean, just also, like, how would you really feel if you come onto a show and you know that you're going to be getting into probably a combative, you're going to be getting into a combative conversation with a guy that's bigoted against you. Not only do the showrunners not tell the guy that this segment is happening, but they egg him on to be like maximally bigoted against you when you enter into the show. Like that really fucking sucks. It's not like, look, they're going to show in an email that they're like, we are going to play a compilation of all of his jokes against little people, and then bring you on. And you're like, okay, like that makes sense. If you're going to kind of hold him to account for all of these bigoted jokes that he did, and then I'm going to come on and I'm going to confront him about it. But that's not the context in which they bring Aubrey on. The context in which they bring him on is like, oh, here's like a highlight reel of all of your jokes. And he's like, yeah, that was great, right? That was great. I actually do hate little people. Let me say some more jokes about them. And then you come on, you have this conversation. It is extremely like combative, but at the end of the conversation, you feel like, I did a good enough job at explaining my position. And even though this old man might not really change the way he feels about things, at least he's a little bit more PC, like when he's in the same room as me, right? And then you're watching the podcast episode and Ethan Klein is like, yeah, we're gonna like release that. We're gonna release that segment that you filmed on tomorrow's podcast episode. You're watching the podcast episode. It's extremely chopped up. So all of that confrontation that you had with the person is edited out, and it's about like 15 seconds of you actually saying, like actually giving some kind of representation towards little people. And then it's all edited out, and then it makes it look like the guy actually learned his lesson due to the deceptive editing that they used on the show. That would really fucking suck, because it's like, I went through kind of one of the worst situations you can think of, right? If you are against, like, if you are, let's say that they were just racist, and they had a black person coming on with two racist people, that is an extremely like stressful situation for you to be in, even if you agree to challenge their racism to their face. Even if you agree to that, that's an extremely stressful situation. And you had a really combative argument that went back and forth, and it was so combative that, I mean, Ethan will say in the most current podcast episode that well, if we showed the whole thing, we would have gotten demonetized. It's like, okay, so that is an indictment on the conversation that you had, right? Like, you literally would be demonetized because of how shitty Jimmy Lee was being towards Aubrey. And then it's edited to make it look like the guy actually learned a lesson, and you really cut out a lot of like the toxic back and forth that you are having with the person. Like, that's not good. You had one experience and then they deceptively edited it to make it look like you had a completely different experience. And so of course Aubrey wants to come back onto the show to actually say what he came on to say in the first place, talk about little people representation, promote his movie, all of that stuff. And then of course he had a bad experience on the show. That entire segment where he was like in a pressure cooker was used as a joke, as part of the character arc of the bigoted person that he was coming on to correct. So that's not cool. Like, your validity as a person getting attacked was used as a joke, as part of some kind of character arc of the shitty person that was attacking you as a person. That's not cool. And then Aubrey does come on. He wants to maintain a relationship with this massive podcast that he was on. He wants to maintain a good relationship because, surprise, surprise, when you have a bad relationship with Ethan, look at what happens. Like, you get a ton of hate heaped upon you. So he wanted to maintain that good relationship. So he came on the following day, and now 2 years later, he makes a video saying like, yeah, I was on a podcast and I really did not have a good time on it. Now he gets attacked. So it's like, there's no winning with these people. He waited 2 years to talk about a bad experience that he had on the podcast, and they can't. It was like a fucking 5-minute long TikTok video, and they couldn't let that go. Ethan is so vindictive that he let's see, how long?
Yes, I saw.
How long was the video? Shoot, I closed the tab. All right, I'll find it though. All right, let's continue this.
That you would even say that or think that. None of us
It's
here.
like Ethan said, he's cashing in.
He made this cynically to cash in, and it just goes to show you the anti-Ethan hate, how fucking it's resonating on some of the social medias, Twitter and TikTok, because they'll convince themselves pretty much of anything. Like, oh yeah, of course Ethan brought out a little person to humiliate him for no reason, like a sideshow or some shit. Fuck you, bro.
Yeah, and it's like the people seeing this, they're not going to go watch the segment. They're just going to take his word
Why
for
should
it.
they not believe him?
Yeah.
Who would, Yeah.
Oh wait, they're not gonna watch the segment? Okay, wait, what the? It was a less than 4-minute long video, and that's what caused Ethan to get so crazy. Oh my god, dude, the guy's got thinner skin than paper. Okay, you didn't bring on Aubrey to humiliate Aubrey. You brought him on as a punchline to setting up Jimmy Lee. You can say it's a bit. It wasn't a bit at the expense of Aubrey. It's just a bit in the continuous vein of you laughing and pointing at Jimmy Lee. It's like, wow, look at the egg on Jimmy Lee's face. But it was insensitive to Aubrey. It flew in the face of what you brought Aubrey on to do. You said that you were going to bring him on to educate people, and that's not what you did. So what do you want, Ethan? You lied about the reason that you were going to bring Aubrey on. It wasn't to educate people. It was the punchline of seeing the egg on Jimmy Lee's face, right? And now when dude, Aubrey didn't even criticize you for anything. He just said that he had a bad time on your podcast. And they're like, you didn't have a bad time on our podcast. You know why? Because you said thanks for coming on. This is literally the level of criticism that we're getting from the H3 podcast right now. It's crazy, dude. Wait, Aubrey's here? Aubrey, shout out. Damn it. You're making me feel bad for ignoring chat now. Okay.
Yeah.
And when looking through the Reddit about things about him and putting all the pieces together this morning, I've seen multiple things of our viewers sharing. It's like, Aubrey's doing this. let's go support him. And like that, our viewers have always been so supportive, and like we've come back to it, like brought up donations he's been promoting. And like, I don't know what would lead you to do this. It's very disappointing.
Just cynical.
Yeah, very cynical.
Clout,
straight up.
Clout chasing.
What makes me exceptionally sad is that like I think it's been a couple years, like we followed each other on Instagram.
Yeah, dude. Posting a fucking TikTok video you're getting so much clout from doing that. Hilarious. Hilarious stuff. They're like, why are you abandoning us, Aubrey? Why are you abandoning us?
And we said happy birthday. Like, I thought, like, the fact that he thought I wasn't on his team and like thought he was a bit, like, that makes me so sad.
I think
he
that's
didn't.
a clear
That's
example.
the thing. He's lying.
Yeah.
He didn't think that. And it's obvious. He knew our intentions. He knew who we are. And he's here fucking lying intentionally just for clout. That's it. And
Literally a Doolittle. Same exact thing.
Yeah, it's Jake Doolittle part 2 up in the...
Okay, chat, let me know about what the Doolittle thing was. I completely ignored that because honestly, I don't really give a fuck. But it's just so funny. Like, how many views did Aubrey get on his TikTok video? I'm just gonna look that up right now. I'll look it up while it's playing.
This bitch. And like I said, wait till you see the receipts. We're talking a lot. I haven't showed you guys anything, so let me just let him finish his video, and then we'll get to the goods.
And the whole bit was basically just about...
The title is, I'm really confused by this call-up post, because everybody was like, I saw this TikTok today by a disability educator I follow and really respect, and it sounded like they were talking about this episode from 2 years ago. I went back and rewatched the whole segment, and I feel like it was a really enlightening and respectful conversation. Aubrey was listening in the whole conversation and was not brought in by surprise. The crew seemed to be respectful and open-minded for the most part. I don't know. I'm confused. Does anyone think this might be a different podcast?
Okay, so what's interesting about this comment is the poster says, I went back and rewatched the segment. I feel like it was a really enlightening and respectful conversation, ? God, I fucking hate reading comments. Their punctuation so bad. Aubrey was listening to the whole conversation and wasn't brought in by surprise. The crew seemed to be respectful and open-minded for the most part. So what's interesting about this is, like, I think, like, obviously Aubrey was on you can't really read the comment. Aubrey was on 2 different segments on the podcast. He was first on that pre-recorded segment, and then he came on later to talk with Ethan Klein on the live video. And it's like, I don't think this person remembered that Aubrey was on the pre-recorded segment, because no, the crew was not listening and open-minded and respectful when he was on that conversation with Jimmy Lee and Gary Klein. That's not true. They were not open-minded and respectful. Sure, they were open-minded and respectful when he called in for the live section, but this section, it's just like not at all what happened. Jake was actually wrong. You can keep ignoring it. I gotta say though, how the community harassed Jake, telling him to kill himself for months, made me realize how toxic the community became. What was the deal with Jake Doolittle? He was trying to blackmail other creators for not donating. Okay, that's actually hilarious. That is some good that's the YouTube drama that Ethan Klein needs to stay on. But I mean, how long of a segment is this? 156. So this is an hour-long segment about a 4-minute long TikTok saying I didn't have a good time on your podcast, and Ethan's like, no, you did have a good time, and actually you just hate Israel. Like, he's not at that level yet, but it's kind of like in the same vein of where he's going down. You just hate me, and I'm Jewish, and I am a representative of Israel, so you just hate Israel.
Yeah, unfortunately
no.
That's how fucked up it is, that like you would think it must be a different podcast. What a fucking asshole.
About having a little person go against 2 guys who were just talking about how little people, what are they going to do? Kick you in the shins? And then brought me in. And it just really solidifies the fact that, 1, I'm a class act. Because I wanted to cuss them out, but I do believe a digital footprint.
You are a fucking piece of shit. Class act? You're the absolute...
You're the opposite of a class
You are a
act. You have
pathetic
0 class.
loser. And
What
just
the
because
fuck?
like I'm a big account and I'm like a successful YouTuber or whatever the fuck you want to say, doesn't mean that I get to lay down and let people fucking shit all over me like that. Fuck you, dude. You're not a class act. You're a piece of shit.
And mind you, this was in front of like 50,000 people watching live. And because what you're not going to do is pretend like just because I have dwarfism that you can suddenly start making jokes as if I'm not a grown man who pays taxes and like has a life.
What you're not going to do is sit here and fucking lie about me on TikTok, bitch. Fuck you.
Shame on you, weirdo. But two, again, I'm an educator. I do believe in trying my best, and
I'm about to give you an education on talking shit.
Yeah.
About to find out. You know what I mean?
PhD.
You gotta fucking learn something here, Aubrey. Get your
Bro, once again, to stick with the theme of the 90s movies, it's literally like the lead bully and he has all of his goons behind him and he's like, I'm gonna give you an education in talking shit. And he's like, yeah, slap me some skin. And all of the guys are like, oh man, that was so good. And they're like patting him on the back, high-fiving him. It's so funny, dude. The vibe of this show was so dark. It was so dark. It was literally just like a group of bullies. And they're like, why are you saying that you had a bad experience on our show? That sucks. That sucks. I wished you a happy birthday and you didn't say anything. That sucks. Holy shit. Okay. Like what has Aubrey said? Ethan's like, I'm gonna show you for lying about me. What has he said so far?
shit together, you fucking asshole. What a dick.
Like, the only thing that he said was, I was a bit on their show, which is undeniably true. And even though the bit wasn't like directly aimed at humiliating Aubrey, it was definitely used as a joke to point and laugh at Jimmy Lee.
They weren't willing to.
Also, the way he's so smarmy and so condescending, like it was so obvious. You know what I mean? Fuck that.
Listen, they weren't wanting to listen. The whole crew was just laughing the whole time. And
guys, for everyone telling me to play the receipts, I'm watching Ethan's podcast. He is the one who curated the content of this podcast. I'm waiting for him to show the receipts, okay? So you guys can just chill. If you have an issue with the receipts not being shown yet, yell at Ethan for not showing them earlier.
He's going after you guys.
So
Sir.
that hurts.
Yeah.
That like hurts to hear. Like, no, we weren't.
Wait. I gotta rewind this. Shit.
Fuck. He's so smarmy. PhD. You gotta fucking learn something.
So Ethan's like, I have a PhD in talking trash. And then in the very next sentence, he says, Aubrey's so smarmy for saying that he didn't have a good time on my podcast. Oh, I guess he said that, like, I'm a class act, so that's smarmy. That's just confidence, my bro.
Here, Aubrey, get your shit together, you fucking asshole. What a dickhead.
They weren't willing to.
Also, the way he
Ethan comes after people that he thinks doesn't watch his entire show. My segments are too long for Ethan Klein to come after. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think he might actually start targeting me soon. But the issue with targeting me is it's not gonna hurt my channel. Like, I have less than 5,000 subscribers. If he targets me, I'm gonna get way more subscribers than what I already have. So it's not gonna hurt my channel if he brings me on. So he would never actually go over what I'm doing.
he's so smarmy and so condescending, like it was so obvious. You know what I mean? Fuck that.
Listen, they weren't wanting to listen. The whole crew was just laughing the whole time. And
he's going after you guys.
So
Sir.
that hurts.
Yeah.
That like hurts to hear. Like, no, we weren't.
All right, guys, I'm sorry. I have to go over this one more time because I'm just not fucking listening at all.
So obvious, you know what I mean? Fuck that.
Listen, they weren't wanting to listen. The whole crew was just laughing the whole time. And
Okay, so he says the whole crew is laughing the whole time. He says the comedians aren't wanting to listen. I mean, that's undeniably true. The comedians definitely weren't trying to listen. The crew during this segment were laughing the entire time. Yeah, the cutoff is 50K subs.
But I definitely think you should realize that comedy can be sustained without literally using someone else as a punching bag. And I think, what do you feel? You can be honest, Jimmy.
No, I have plenty of other jokes. I don't have to use the midget joke.
Everyone can be joked about. I just think it's the offhandedness and the fact that you're just quick to move on to another joke where I get followed in stores and I have someone online literally who's been stalking and threatening and harassing me just because I have dwarfism. He calls it Midget Wednesday. And I just don't think you would want to be associated with that.
No, I don't. I'm going to let that one go.
Jimmy, this is an iconic conversation then, you realize.
Well, I'm not ever going to do a little people joke again. We're going to knock that off the dock. We're letting it go after listening to you.
Can you look at me without your sunglasses and give that to me in the camera?
We're swearing off little people jokes.
Oh, you even got the term right.
I have a zillion other jokes. You can take the little people jokes out.
We appreciate, your perspective, Aubrey. It's been very informative and enlightening, and I hope It's resonating.
Like, I love talking and arguing. It's if I ever came across a certain way, please don't think you are not offensive in the way that you talk about little people that I hear every single day. So it's not about being offended at all.
It
And
wasn't
Gary, I'm like
harmful intended. I just do comedy.
I love it. And again, I'm a comedian, guys. You don't know my humor too, so you don't know I could be just as.
You
But
can
no,
make fun of a Jew. I'm right here. Just don't shoot me.
we don't even make
Two
fun of
Jews.
anybody
Two
that-
Jews in planning a fire.
Two Jews walk into a
Lots
bar.
of other- There's lots of other content out there, and that's what I would just like to say as my final.
Well,
And
thank you. Thanks.
Thank you,
please,
Aubrey.
Jimmy, please look up DearAverageHypePeople.com, making a documentary comedy festival about that disability hate group because YouTube just doesn't care enough to protect small creators. So it's DearAverageHypePeople.com, and we're raising money right now to finish the film. Jimmy, you would love this. It's a comedy special, Jimmy. We're making fun of ourselves. We're making fun of everybody. The point is to bridge the gap between people like you and people like me.
I want to say one thing. Me and Gary are going to say it together. We love you. Say it.
Yeah, what he said.
Thank you, guys.
Aubrey,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay,
It was
thank you
great.
so much,
Thank
Aubrey.
you.
So
Take
much,
care.
Aubrey.
Good luck.
Whoa, that went
Thank
better
you.
than I thought. I mean, Jimmy well, I think, okay, there was a lot of finessing.
There's a lot.
You actually finessed that to making it look like Jimmy learned a valuable lesson.
Yeah.
It was a bumpy conversation, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of back and forth. I had to cut a lot for the sake of brevity, but it'll be in the final cut there.
But that was nice. But ultimately, in the end, actually, there was some progress with Jimmy there, swearing off little people jokes, even using the correct term there.
You
How
got
about that?
You got to see his reaction at the end, though, after they.
All right, here we go. Let's see.
Beard purged.
Why'd you do it? Oh, that's not what I wanted.
Oh, you too, guys.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay.
Oh, now I think I need to take my Metamucil.
Is that a joke or you need to take your Metamucil?
Am I allowed to use the toilet before we go to our next segment?
Sure, yes.
I may throw up.
Oh, don't. Yeah, then definitely go in the bathroom.
That was stressful for poor old Jimmy. You're gonna shit and puke. I guess you did a generous job of cutting that together there, Cam. So I don't know.
Like I said, the final cut has the full context and everything. So.
Cam Grant, what's up, dude?
Yeah, that was some excellent editing, I must say, Cam. It was
and
a
shout out to Cameron who
forward
basically
conversation. Yeah.
did the impossible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's do a poll then and see. I think I was expecting worse. I think maybe this didn't hurt. Uh-oh, this was Jimmy 2 days ago. Oh no, no, he did this.
My new manager.
Group who is less apt to hurt you is threatening people, not midgets. What are they going to do? Come up and kick you in the knee or something? That's
Okay, I'm really glad you said that, Gary, because we actually.
Okay,
so yeah, I mean, they bring him on, they have that segment, then they're like, oh wow, well I guess Jimmy actually learned something. Oh well, I guess he didn't actually learn something. He wants to shit and puke at the same time, and then afterwards they're like, it was very edited, and then they're like, oh, and he posted something that was bigoted against little people. So yeah, I guess Jimmy didn't have that learning experience we wanted him to have. Where in the learning experience for Jimmy is the platforming of better little people representation on your show? Like, nothing of that was educational. And you guys were laughing at him the entire time. You're like, oh, Jimmy didn't learn anything, ha ha ha. Oh my god, Jimmy's gonna have such egg on his face when he makes these bigoted jokes, and then we bring in a little person. Wow, isn't that gonna be hilarious? And then the reason that they had to edit it down so much is because they literally say that they would have been demonetized if they posted the entire thing on YouTube, which again is an indictment on kind of the environment that they created for Aubrey to come on the show. So let's continue.
He's going after
that
you
was
guys.
So
Sir.
that hurts.
Yeah.
That like hurts to hear. Like, no, we weren't.
Dude, they literally were all laughing at that segment, okay? It was not an educational segment. It was a humorous bit, which is why they were all laughing at it. It wasn't a segment to educate people on the trials and tribulations of someone experiencing dwarfism. It's a bit about, look at this bigoted comedian. We got him, right? Isn't that hilarious?
Maybe laughing at the like how horrible Jimmy is, but we would never laugh at you.
The guy was a fan of the show. He knows exactly who Jimmy is, what the context was, what he was there to do.
And like, here's the thing that makes me especially sad is it certainly is possible that what Jimmy said on that call hurt Aubrey. Jimmy, that was the point of the conversation. Aubrey asked to
educate him. Yeah, I mean, was his.
Okay, so let's just like keep in mind what they're saying, right? Aubrey asked to educate. Was that an educational segment? No, it was not. Aubrey was brought on to be a bit. involving Jimmy Lee. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Aubrey's message. Where? Okay, gotta find this. Oh, I just wish you all could see the other 90% when they were talking over everything I said and just making jokes. What they show is them ultimately caving because they got bored with me. Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I get too, where Jimmy Lee's like, okay, I understand. Okay, let's get it over with. You know, I have plenty of other jokes to do. That's kind of the vibe that I get too. God damn it. I'm so sorry, Aubrey. Yeah. I'm so sorry that I am horrible at reading chat. We're just gonna have to deal with that. Aubrey, if you want me to read out a message, send me a message on Discord, okay? Like, I have that pulled up on my phone. It'd be easier for me to check out than on YouTube chat.
His point. That was his idea.
Yeah, it's just so if something that Jimmy said did stick with Aubrey and hurt Aubrey, I'm sorry. However, you're saying that we were all laughing at you when we made you a bit, which is not true.
No, he wasn't. Oh my god. All right, let's just do this one more time. I mean, these people have such poor media literacy. Jesus.
And it was a horrible experience, and it's why I'm never going to go on another podcast again. And no, I will not be naming the podcast, even though some of you definitely know what I'm talking about. But they had a segment one time with the podcast owner's dad and some comedian who, mind you, the same podcast is now accusing of SA years later. But the comedian one day was talking in a bit about how he has a phobia of little people. And they were going on and on about a lot of miseducation around dwarfism in general. So I was like, oh my god, this is the perfect time to educate people. We love a good educational moment, especially as a viewer at the time, with dwarfism. So I wrote on their subreddit, I was like, hey, I'm a filmmaker and educator. I would love to come on and educate you guys and talk about the dwarfism community and specifically the phobia of little people, since I know that's such a gray area for a lot of people. So the post blew up. All the fans of the show were like, we would love to see Aubrey on the show. They reached out, and then next thing you know, I'm in the waiting room the next episode to talk to the comedian and the podcast owner's dad. And I thought this was going to be an educational little moment, but I was coming on to be a bit. They essentially had, leading up to my appearance, a whole compilation of this guy, all the times that he said publicly on the internet that he's afraid of little people, and just a lot of derogatory jokes about little people. And then they were like, and drum roll, we have a little person to surprise you. And they brought me in with basically no warning.
Okay, so Aubrey, this is a huge claim that the H3 crew uses against you. Basically what they say is that you are claiming you had no warning for this bit. But what I take to understand from this TikTok is that you were saying that the comedians that you came on to talk with had no warning about you for the bit, which I think makes perfect sense in what you said. But let me know what your thoughts are, and then we can go on from there. But I mean, they're like, how can you say you had no warning when we have all of these emails? And it's like, you said the comedians had no warning, which is undeniably true. I mean, that was literally the joke of that segment, is that the comedians you were brought on to argue against had no warning about your appearance. Okay, just wanted to put that out there.
And the whole bit was basically just about having a little person go against two guys who were just talking about how little people, what are they going to do? Kick you in the shins? And then brought me in. And it just really solidifies the fact that, one, I'm a class act. Because y'all, I wanted to cuss them out. But I do believe in digital footprints. And mind you, this was in front of like 50,000 people watching live. And because what you're not going to do is pretend like just because I have dwarfism that you can suddenly start making jokes as if I'm not a grown man who pays taxes and like has a life. Shame on you, weirdo. But two, again, I'm an educator. I do believe in trying my best. And I did what I could. They weren't willing to listen. They weren't wanting to listen. The whole crew was just laughing the whole time. And it was like an out-of-body experience. I definitely disassociated for maybe 30 seconds because I was like, it's very strange watching something that you consumed for so long and then finally being involved in that circle and then just realizing you're there to be a joke. Very weird thing. And it really, now I'm so conscious of what I say yes to and the things that I say and participate in. And the only podcast I listen to now, because I ain't listening to that anymore, is Do We Know Them? Because we love the girlies, and one of them actually has a child with a disability and talks so openly and respectfully about that. And then also I listen to my own podcast because I love the sound of my own voice. Sorry, some of us have soothing, calming voices that's enjoyable to listen to. But don't worry about me, though. I'm doing better things. At the time, I had just started working on my documentary, and I was also...
Okay, so we can stop it there. Basically, Aubrey makes two claims in this video. The one claim that he has is, I was brought on to be a bit. And then kind of the other claim is, the bit was having a little person go up against two guys that were bigoted against little people. Those are both undeniably true. And the fact that Ethan gets so up in his feelings about that is... I don't know, it's like an indictment on how fragile his ego is and how touchy he is to any kind of criticism. I don't know, people that have watched the show in the past, let me know if that's changed, or if this is a new phenomenon, or if Ethan has always been as prickly as this. All right, what the fuck is this idiot Jacob saying in the chat? Did he just get banned or something? I don't know, Jacob, if you're still watching, do better at reading. Okay, that's all I can say.
True.
Also,
it's provably not true.
It's provably not true.
I don't want it to seem like we're telling like, hey, no, you're wrong. It wasn't offensive. Your perception's wrong. No, it's not a perception thing. Just wait. This guy is fucking lying.
You'll see. It's hilarious.
He also...
Okay, so once again, I wrote down his two claims. I actually wrote it on a piece of paper. His two claims are he was brought on to be a bit, and then his other claim is that the bit was like a little person is going against two bigots. He's always had problems taking criticism. I mean, this is one claim. He was brought on to be a bit. That's all that he was saying in the podcast. And they're like getting super triggered about it. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing. Like, oh my God. Yeah, I need to ban some of these people like permanently.
He also said we surprised him with this live in front of 50,000 people. This was not a live episode. This was a...
Nope, he did not say that. He said you surprised the comedians. You surprised the comedians on his show. Also, did he say that he... Oh yeah, he said like, I wanted to cuss him out, but it was live in front of 50,000 people. Well, I don't know if he knew that it was a pre-recorded segment and it wasn't live. So for all he knew, that actually was a live stream. But whatever, like, he could have, like, it's extremely truthful to say, I wanted to cuss him out, but I thought it was live in front of 50,000 people. That's something that I can totally understand him saying.
Pre-recorded episode.
Yo, what the hell?
And if you were upset, we could have...
Dude, Ethan is so gleeful. He is so gleeful by saying that he's like, oh, what? He misspoke? He thought it was one thing and it was another thing? What the hell? He's such a fucking dumbass, right?
We could have cut it. You know what I mean? Like...
Oh, by the way, I clarified it in my follow-up video. The only time I mentioned H3 by name when I said in front of 50,000 people, I meant the segment would be aired live, not that the first segment. Exactly. Like, if you do anything on the podcast, inevitably it will be aired live in front of 50,000 people. So why are they breaking down your semantics that you used in the video? It's actually crazy levels of pettiness. Okay.
There was a long opportunity to do so.
Wait, he just straight up lied about it being live?
I think he might be. So he came on the show twice. There was this, and then because of the way that it went with Jimmy, where Jimmy and your dad were just not having the breakthrough that we were looking for, we decided to have him on again with just him and just talk to him about his movie and his activism and everything, and that was just a straightforward conversation with him. That one was live. But yeah, it's possible he was just confusing the two. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. That's possible. Sure.
It was like an out-of-body experience. I definitely disassociated for maybe 30 seconds because I was like, it's very strange watching something that you consumed for so long and then finally being involved in that circle and then just realizing you're there to be a joke. Very weird thing. And it really, now I'm so conscious of what I say yes to and the things that I say and participate in. And the only podcast I listen to now, because I ain't listening to that anymore, is Do We Know Them? Because
you guys know how annoying that guy Ethan likes killing Palestinian babies. Can I get some wayos in chat?
What the fuck?
I think a part of this too is that...
Bro, what the actual fuck? Like, All he said is he did not have a good time on your podcast because you brought him on as part of a bit. And now you're like, oh, wow, you know how anti-Palestinian Ethan Klein is. He loves killing Palestinian babies. Bro. Actually, like, insane stuff from Ethan here. Jesus fucking Christ. It's like, why don't you actually engage in the criticism that he's saying rather than being like, oh my god, he misspoke and said that the segment he was on was live. What a dumbass, right, guys? Ha ha ha.
Like, people were like, weren't you on the H3 show? Because people are so fucking
He was saying
pathetic.
shit? Yeah,
Right.
essentially.
And he's like, no, they were actually mean to me, and they hate little people, and
He never said they were. Aubrey never even said that you guys were mean to him. He said he had a bad experience on the show because he thought he was coming on to educate people, and what he was really coming on was to be a bit. That's the bad experience that he had on the show. He never said you were mean to him. He never said you hate little people. He never said you want Palestinian babies to die. All of this is something that you seemingly have internalized, and maybe Ethan feels guilty about, and maybe he's projecting those sentiments into Aubrey's video. But he, once again, extremely poor media analysis from Ethan Klein. Like, this has been a through line. I don't know if he's a dumb person, but his comprehension skills are very low.
Who's watching that show? Not me.
And this is where it becomes worse, in my opinion.
He's like, I was a fan of that show for years, but all of a sudden now, everything he's done before I started watching is too offensive for me.
Yep.
That's a through line you see of all these new hater videos. They're like, actually, Ethan's the most offensive person in the world, and I've been a fan of theirs for 5 years, and everything that I'm criticizing him for happened before I started watching.
I may have laughed at the time, but now
Yeah.
I'm upset.
I don't remember. I can't disprove the laughter.
Because we love the girlies, and one of them actually
Once again, he isn't actually criticizing your show at all. He's just said that I had a bad experience on your show, and now I'm not watching it anymore. Where is the criticism of your show in that?
has a child with a disability and talks so openly and respectfully about that. And then also I listen to my own podcast because I love the sound of my own voice.
Yeah,
Sorry,
totally.
some of us have soothing, calming voices that's enjoyable to listen to.
No. Not in this case.
Was this whole thing a plug for his own podcast?
Oh my god. Oh wow. Now they're actually realizing it. Was this whole thing a plug for his own podcast? Yeah, dude, what the fuck do you think going on your show was? Like, it's literally an attempt to market yourself and market the causes that you're pushing. Holy shit, dude, these people are so fucking stupid. This is the same vibe that I'm getting from their audience when they're like, Hassan wanted to buy Teddy Fresh clothing, but now he's donating them to the homeless. And he was so greedy by asking for Teddy Fresh clothing. It's like, bro, you guys are so fucking stupid. It's an advertisement for your clothing. Yes, going onto your show is an advertisement for the things that Aubrey is pushing for. It's insane. Like, they are so spiteful that their brains just aren't working anymore. Like, everyone on the show. Maybe not Olivia. Olivia seems genuinely hurt by the fact that Aubrey said he had a bad time, which it's funny, like, that you are hurt by the fact that Aubrey said he had a bad time on your podcast and you are unable to separate the show you work with your personal relationship with Aubrey.
And yeah, it's all self-serving, just an outright lie.
Yeah.
But don't worry about me, though. I'm doing bigger and better things. At the time, I had just started working on my documentary, and I was also told them that I would love to talk to people about that and why I was making a documentary about little people that actually hired little people behind the camera and in front of the camera in the first place, you know, because of issues like us being constantly used as like I'm scared of little people and the experiences that we have. But that fundraiser, it took a long time to reach our goal, but we finally did a couple months ago in the summer, which was really exciting. And also, I'm still hot, so... And the podcast owner now is crashing out on the internet publicly, so...
And that detail is important. Why? You know what I mean? Like, it's so obvious, bro. I'm crashing out. Like, what the fuck?
You're personally insulting me, Aubrey? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Okay, and then the other comment that I want to make here is like, he's like, everyone knows that you're talking about H3, right? What other podcast were you on? And what other podcast owner is crashing out live? I mean, if you watch the H3 podcast, or you might watch us on and you kind of tangentially watch the H3 podcast, of course I think you can put 2 and 2 together. But if you are just a fan of Aubrey and you have no knowledge of the H3 podcast at all, how the fuck would you know that it was the H3 podcast? Like, once again, this is an example of Ethan's ego being insanely big, and he's like, well, everyone knows that I'm crashing out on the internet. Everyone knows that 2 years ago you appeared on my podcast. It's like, dude, Not everyone knows that. Only your fans are going to know that. And once again, like, if, I don't know, he's going to criticize Aubrey by saying, like, oh, well, you said you didn't say the name, and that gives you plausible deniability for clout chasing. But obviously, everyone knows that you were talking about H3. Like, it's better than not saying the name is better than saying the name in terms of, like, having that separation between you and the show.
What does that have to do with me, the story, apparently? I am about to crash out. That's true. I'm about to fucking crash land on your fucking reputation, dude, because you're a liar. Here, let me see. Is it? Did he erase it, or?
That's what I'm wondering.
Because I know.
I'm looking for
I think he probably panicked when I responded. I responded on Instagram Live when I saw this, and
Instagram story
or Instagram story. Yeah. Do we have that?
Yeah. One sec.
Here, yeah, I got it. So when I saw this originally, I was like, dude, what the fuck, man? I said,
oh, sorry, I found it. I found the original one, 1.3 million.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Look how easy it is to defame me. And this is actual defamation. This is real. Look, 170,000 likes. But how many views does he usually get? Let's take a look here. Let's take a look at his latest videos. 15,000, 18,000, 18,000. Yeah, I understand why you fucking came for me, you asshole. You douchebag, liar. I should sue fucking people like this.
This account is sadly at risk.
Like, bro, you can't talk. You can't say anything you want about people. You know, don't lie. That's it. So anyway, of course, he cleaned up good. He got a ton of views, ton of likes, tons of sympathy for something that didn't happen.
I mean, I love Ethan, like, complaining about people talking about his show. When on his show and on his Instagram, he'll, like, redistribute their content, essentially. Like, he watches the entire Aubrey Smalls TikTok. He watches the entire Mika's Rhetoric video. He literally promotes their show on his Instagram. Of course people are going to go and watch it. Like, he is just as responsible for propagating this kind of content against him as the content creators are, probably even more so. So I love how in Ethan's mind, he is crusading against all of these people that are just trying to get clout off of him. It's like, if you're really trying to get clout off of Ethan and Ethan wants to put a stop to that, then why is he engaging in the drama? Why doesn't he just ignore it? Honestly, if he didn't post Aubrey's video on his Instagram, and if he didn't do this like content reaction segment, Aubrey would not be as popular as he is right now. So it's kind of funny. It's like you are self-defeating. If your purpose is to go after these haters and stop them from getting clout, then why are you targeting them anyway? And the answer is that Ethan's show thrives off of this type of interpersonal YouTube drama. That is the bread and butter of Ethan's show. So as much as he loves to criticize other people for doing exactly what he does, he is incapable of not doing it himself.
And I continue to get defamed all over the internet. Here's what I said. I said, enough with these weak-ass call-outs trying to cash out on H3 hate. This shit is not paying out anymore. Fuck this dude. We have insane amount of receipts to disprove everything. I see you trying to erase shit too. Don't worry, we have it all saved. He was trying to erase receipts right after I called him out. Why the fuck would you even make this video? Jake Doolittle loves self-owning. Enjoy the New Year, dipshit. Yeah. We had just went on break, so I was like, enjoy the time between now and then.
He's been stressing all week.
Good. He should be stressed because he's a fucking liar. He should erase that video and apologize.
Definitely.
So he doesn't get sued.
Yeah.
Yes, I can see you.
I can see you. Man, this dude is going to look so fucking dumb when we're back. So obvious with the comment. He's scraping for any clout he can get from this new wave of H3 hate. And they always start talking shit the minute I'm on break too. Just a coincidence. Literally. So anyway, let's get into the receipts.
I love this part.
Genuinely, I think the only thing that could prevent me from considering legal action, he needs to make a TikTok apologizing and admitting he lied. On his TikTok, you have to say, I lied about you. Because let's get to the receipts, you guys. All right.
Keep saying that.
Here's the original post. Let's go through this. Of him saying he wanted to call in. Let's take a look.
Okay, just one more thing. Like, what did Aubrey lie about? The only thing he said is that he was brought on to be a bit. So, yeah, he never even said Ethan's name. He didn't even say the name of the podcast. He didn't even say the name of the comedian that was bigoted against him. The only, like, positive claim Aubrey made that directly had to do with your show is that he was brought on to be a bit and the crew was laughing about him. both of that is like undeniably true. You have the podcast episode still up for people to watch.
Ethan, I'm an actor with dwarfism. I'm currently making a documentary comedy special about disability hate group on YouTube that's been cyberbullying me for over a year. I would love to call in tomorrow during the Tippy Toes segment and chat about Jimmy's little people phobia and dwarfism representation. The context, by the way, was that we were talking about how fucked up of a movie Tiptoes is. So it wasn't even like with zero context.
We were planning on watching it, which ended up failing miserably because we got copyright struck immediately.
I don't know what I thought about that idea, but here is one of his comments saying he wants to speak with Jimmy. His idea. He says, this
is the best ever.
He actually writes it out like he's writing a contract.
Bro, write a contract and I'd write it in reply, yeah.
I wonder if this is permissible evidence.
I mean, as close as it could be, I feel like.
Aubrey Smalls, volunteer to spend a day with Jimmy and change his mind about the dwarfism community. Maybe I can even get him to donate to our movie that has multiple dwarves in it. Thank you for sharing this. Isn't it amazing the impact representation can have on people's lives, outlooks, and how they treat others? Many people I meet admit they have zero knowledge on people with dwarfism, and that's not their fault. Over 100,000 people are born with dwarfism every year. To average height people, but all we have is what? Munchkins, Oompa Loompas, Peter Dinklage, and Game of Thrones? I'm trying to give people more reference when they think of little people in Hollywood. Since Hollywood is still putting us in the Dwarf Villager 1 category, I decided to write our own movie while telling a true story about my experience with online harassment due to my dwarfism. I, Aubrey Smalls, volunteer. But okay, fair enough. Fair enough. You know what I mean? Here is an email exchange that we had with him. This is when stuff that is not public, but is now public. Now, this is you talking to him, right, Dan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Dan says, hi there. Saw your post about potentially calling into the podcast during the Tiptoes stream to discuss dwarfism representation and Jimmy Lee. Now, unfortunately, the Tiptoes live stream didn't exactly pan out as expected, but we wanted to reach out for another option. Tomorrow, we're filming an episode with Ethan's dad and Jimmy Lee in an old couple sort of situation, and we'll need to confront Jimmy again. Notice the word confront, about his problematic jokes to see if we can get through. It's cut off there, but I'm assuming to him.
Yeah.
The clips we want to ask him about is the dwarfism jokes from the previous appearance of his. We tell him specifically what we're...
Super specific about what we were doing. Totally transparent.
Like Jimmy had sense
fully aware.
I forget what he said, but it was something...
Okay, so these guys are like incapable of reading through an actual, like 2.5 paragraphs. So what does he say? Tomorrow we are filming an episode with Ethan's dad and Jimmy Lee in an old couple sort of situation, and we will need you to confront Jimmy again about his problematic jokes to see if we can get through. I don't know why the format is so bad, but through maybe to him. The clips we want to ask him about is the dwarfism jokes from the previous appearance of his. Now we wanted to ask, would you be interested in calling in to discuss with him why his jokes might be racist or might be problematic or something? We will totally be there to back you up during that conversation because he has to chill out a bit. Haha. If you're not comfortable with that, we totally understand. Another option would be to just send in a video message and we can play it for him during the recording. Would you be interested in either of those? Tape tomorrow around 12 p.m. PST. Let me know. Thanks so much for reaching out. Looking forward to hearing back. Okay, so they're saying that they're going to have Aubrey's back during this conversation with Jimmy Lee, and this makes it look like it's going to actually be a real conversation with Aubrey representing dwarfism, like pushing dwarfism representation, and Jimmy Lee actually getting confronted on his bigotry in a serious matter. How was it portrayed both in the pre-recorded segment and how was it portrayed on the podcast? Well, in the pre-recorded segment, obviously it was set up as a joke and then it was extremely confrontational. The clips that we saw, none of the crew actually had Aubrey's back in that specific conversation. And they're after the fact, they're like, oh my God, Jimmy Lee's doing such bad stuff, right? Maybe they can say that that is them having his back, but of course that's after the fact. That was after the recording. During the actual live segment, when they replayed the segment that they had edited, had recorded, that segment was played out as a bit. It was not an opportunity for Aubrey to actually confront Jimmy's bigotry and spread dwarfism representation, be an activist for people dwarfism. What it was a bit of, here's Jimmy Lee, isn't he bigoted? Isn't he bad? Oh, haha, look at that. He is being confronted by someone with dwarfism now, the exact same person he was being bigoted against. So, yes, even though this paragraph can be taken to be what happened, even though not really, because they didn't really have his back. It wasn't really a confrontation of Jimmy Lee's bigotry. It was more of like a joke about his bigotry being exposed to someone that he was bigoted against. It can also, like, when you read that paragraph, you can take it to mean that, you know, this is going to be a serious conversation and I'm actually going to have a platform to spread kind of anti-little people, like push back against anti-little people hate, push back against the bigotry that your show has been platforming. And instead, what did you get? You had a comedic segment. So yes, there was no actual representation that Aubrey was able to promote there. And like, you can chalk this up to a misunderstanding, but if it's a misunderstanding, then Aubrey is definitely within his right to say, I did not have a good experience on the show and I don't listen to it anymore. And because Aubrey said that, Ethan has been threatening to sue him now, which is crazy. Like, it's literally someone saying they did not have a good time on your show. And Ethan's like, no, you did have a good time on my show. I'm going to sue you so that you have to say you had a good time on my show.
Really super offensive to little people. And we had talked about it. We had acknowledged it. And we had told him specifically what it was. Now, what we wanted to ask, would you be interested in calling in to discuss with him why his joke might be offensive? We'll totally be there to back you up during the conversation because he has to chill out a bit. Haha. If you're not comfortable with this, we totally understand. Another option would be just send in a video message and we can play it for him during the recording. Would you be interested in either of those options? We're taping tomorrow around 12 p.m. Let me know. Thanks so much for reading and looking forward to hearing from you. So again, we gave him not only the option, we told him exactly what was going to happen. Yeah. He was going to come in, he was going to confront Jimmy Lee on this specific joke.
That there would be a compilation of his previous jokes and then that we would confront him about it, which is exactly what he cited as being like, you know, him not being in the loop.
We blindsided him.
Yeah, we blindsided him.
And then we even gave him the
I mean, you guys blindsided Jimmy Lee. You did not tell him that this was a serious segment to push back against his dwarfism bigotry. You set it up as a joke. I mean, quite obviously, you did not come in with good intentions for this. It's like one person is thinking this is going to be a serious conversation. The other person is saying bigoted jokes, and then you have that comedic element of this misunderstanding clashing. That is the segment that you guys did, and you did play it off as laughs on the podcast. I mean, you guys were laughing about it before the segment. After the segment, you commented about how good the editing was, and then you were laughing even more when you're like, oh my god, look, Jimmy Lee is still extremely bigoted.
option like, hey, if this sounds like too, you know,
yeah, if you don't want to do that, here's an alternative option. And then, of course, there's also the option of if you're not comfortable doing it, you don't have to do it at all.
I mean, you guys said you were going to like back Aubrey up. You didn't include any of those segments in the cut video that you did. So that is a misrepresentation of what was going to happen on the show. Maybe in the unedited version, one of the producers was like, Jimmy, you got to like fucking cut out the bigotry. But it's so dumb. If they're going to say Aubrey's lying, then I can nitpick what they're doing and say that they're lying as well.
Yeah, because our intentions were good. We wanted him to feel comfortable and have a wholesome experience where he came out looking and feeling good about it.
Yeah.
And that is what happened.
Yeah. We also were
And that is what happened. He did have a wholesome and comfortable experience. Yeah. Okay, so Ethan is saying now that Aubrey did have a comfortable experience talking with two guys that were bigoted against him. That is what happened. Oh my god, dude. This guy's ego is off the charts. Yeah, they wanted him to have a wholesome experience and be comfortable with what happened.
thrilled to platform an educational creator who could teach Jimmy.
It was a win-win-win.
We were thrilled.
So we thought.
He responds, hi, hope you're doing well. Thanks for response. I'll be totally down to call into the chat with them, and I'm available tomorrow at 12 p.m. PST. Perfect. Thank you so much. I will shoot you an email tomorrow around 11, and we can set up a Zoom test, and then we'll be looking forward to chatting on the show. Thanks, Aubrey. Talk soon. Sounds great. Continuing on. So you sent him a thank you?
Yeah, so this is afterwards.
After the show, Dan sent him a thank
you.
After
the recording. Hadn't aired yet, keep in mind. This was just, we
was not
recorded
live.
it. This was not live. Yep.
Hi, Aubrey. Thank you for calling in. That got a little spicy, and we appreciate you trying your best to educate and inform using the platform. Not sure how it will resonate with Jimmy's long term, but we're definitely going to debrief with him and talk it out. Hopefully it wasn't too much for you. They're more resistant than expected. We will keep you posted on when it will come out. Thanks again, and let me know if you have any questions. Aubrey said, thanks for having me. Such an honor to chat, even though I know things got awkward for everybody. I would honestly love to chat about calling back in to talk about what the Reddit post was actually about. I was really inspired by the outpouring of support from fellow H3 listeners who are rooting for a positive discussion on dwarfism. The dwarfism representation outside of Jimmy's comments. I'm usually not so serious, and neither is the project I'm making. It's more surrealistic, artistic, educational content than anything. Haha. I know we didn't have a chance to do that today, but I've seen the positive impact H3 has had in the YouTube atmosphere, and I would love to chat about the chance to move the to move the ball forward. I lost my spot because it zoomed in.
Move the ball forward for the community. I know.
Oh, there you go.
I know.
And plus, I know and love. Let me read that again. To push the ball forward for the community I know and love. Plus, Ethan the other night said, disabled people are heroes, and I agree. There are so many iconic people with dwarfism out there that your listeners seem to be down to talk more about. So I wanted to see what your thoughts were on this. Let me know.
Wait,
Plus,
hold on.
let me read that again. It's had in the YouTube atmosphere, and I would love to see Jimmy's comments. I'm usually not so serious, and neither is the project I'm making. It's more surrealistic, artistic, educational content than anything. Haha. I know we didn't have a chance to do that today, but I've seen the positive impact H3 has had in the YouTube atmosphere, and I would love to chat about the chance to move the to move the ball forward. I lost my spot because it zoomed in.
Move the ball forward for the community. I know.
Oh, there you go.
I know.
And plus, I know and love. Let me read that again. To put.
Jesus Christ, dude, it's a fucking train wreck letting these guys read anything. So this is so funny. So Ethan is saying that Aubrey had such a good, wholesome, and comfortable experience on the show. Well, his producer is acknowledging that it was a little spicy, and maybe that message didn't really resonate with Jimmy. So hopefully it wasn't too much for you. So it was such a comfortable experience that the producer had to reach out and say, hopefully it wasn't too much for you. They were more resistant than we expected. And then Aubrey says, such an honor to chat, even though I know things got awkward for everyone. So the producer is saying, hopefully it wasn't too much for you. It was a little spicy. They were more resistant than we expected. Aubrey's saying, I know things got awkward for everybody. And then Ethan says, no, you actually had a wonderful, wholesome, and comfortable time on my show. Then, okay, so just saying, the immediate aftermath of that segment flies in the face of what Ethan was saying. Literally, the receipts that Ethan brought on disprove what Ethan's trying to prove with the receipts, which is so fucking hilarious. So then what does Aubrey say? He says, I would honestly love to chat about calling back in to talk about what the Reddit post was actually about. So Aubrey's saying, yes, going on to these guys to try to push my narrative of like representation for little people, that didn't happen today. I would actually love to call back in and talk about what the Reddit post was actually about because I was not able to do that today. And I mean, what is the response afterwards? We would love to have you call back in. So the producer's like, yeah, you were not able to actually push your agenda. You were not actually able to like promote advocacy for little people. And then he says that I was really inspired by the outpouring support from fellow H3 listeners who are rooting for a positive discussion on dwarfism and dwarfism representation outside of Jimmy's comments. They're saying, I actually want to have a discussion on dwarfism and dwarfism representation. And he says, I know we didn't have a chance to do that today. And Ethan kind of like brushes that past that line, right? So literally they're saying that, yeah, you had a very awkward experience on the show. Hopefully it wasn't too much for you. And he's like, yeah, I did have a bad experience and I was not able to promote the message that I was trying to promote and what I wanted to talk about. And then he's like, I know we didn't have a conversation, like a serious conversation today. Can I call back in? And they're like, yeah, you can call back in. So literally, dude, Ethan saying you had a wholesome, good, and comfortable experience on our show where you were actually able to promote your dwarfism, like your pro-dwarfism advocacy agenda. Here are the receipts. And the receipt says, I did not have a comfortable time on the show. It was extremely awkward and I was not able to promote my agenda. And your fucking producer agreed with it. It's fucking mind-boggling, dude. Like literally the receipts that you show to try to prove your point disprove your point. And he's just not reading it properly. Like, once again, extremely poor media literacy.
Push the ball forward for the community I know and love. Plus, Ethan the other night said, disabled people are heroes, and I agree. There are so many iconic people with dwarfism out there that your listeners seem to be down to talk more about. So I wanted to see what your thoughts were on this. Let me know what you think. he seems to like me.
Yeah.
He seems to respect me at this time. For he's, you know, interesting. Now I'm crashing out. He's getting his revenge on me because I'm crashing out. We continue. Dan responds to him.
Yep.
We would love to have you call back in. We are editing the episode together for next week, as we have a guest tomorrow, so it'll likely be out next Friday. And then once it's out, we would love to debrief and talk more about your post and project. Once our editor finalizes it and we lock in the date, I'll be sure to let you know ASAP. You're the best. Talk soon. Hi, Aubrey. I know it's a bit last minute, but is there any chance you'd be available to call in today? We're currently live and we'd love to hear from you. I would love to. I'm watching now. Oh, he sounds like a big fan.
Uh-huh.
What the
Thank
fuck?
you guys for making
Dude, he's just being polite. He's calling into your show, saying, I would love to. I'm watching now. Yeah, sounds like a big fan. When you were talking about potentially calling in, of course you would watch the show. This is fucking crazy, dude.
happen and being so cool. You guys rock. Please let everyone know how thankful I am. He said after the show. Dan said, appreciate you, Aubrey. So does our audience. They were so thrilled with your call. That was great. And we're all thankful for the insight you provided. Best wishes and good luck on your project. That sounds like a horrible fucking experience you had.
Yeah, awful, huh? we abused
completely blindsided. We made and what a joke we made out of him. Oh my God! Here
he also made a public Reddit post, which unfortunately I was not able to screenshot before he deleted it, and I couldn't find it back.
Oh, I thought we had it.
It was the same general sentiment. It was a public thank you so much.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we had this hours-long conversation with two bigots against a person that they're bigoted against. We edited it down to 10 minutes, and he was such a fan. And then he saw the actual segment that we did where we were laughing about that edit and being like, wow, look at these two bigots getting confronted with someone they're bigoted against. And they're laughing about that. And then Ethan's like, before he saw that edit, he was happy about the content, even though in the fucking emails that Ethan leaks, he says he's not happy about it. And the producer says, yeah, it was an awkward experience for you. So Aubrey's one claim that he had on the show is that he did not have a good experience on the show. And then Ethan's like, no, you did have a good experience on the show. Let me prove it by showing these emails where my producer and you both admit it was not a comfortable experience for anyone involved. It's like, dude, this guy's actually fucking brain dead. Like, I know people have been talking about the Ozempic frying his brain, but I've never seen anything this fucking stupid where Ethan says, you had a good experience on the show. I'm going to prove it by showing emails that says you did not have a good experience on the show. It's fucking insane. It's like, oh, you were still polite to me. Okay. Wow. He was still polite to you in emails. That proves he had a good experience on the show when in the fucking paragraph, he said, I did not have a good experience on the show. It's mind-boggling, dude. Like, honestly, does everyone on this show have brain rot? Is there some kind of fungus infecting their minds? Because I haven't seen any kind of critical thought on the show since I've been watching it. It's nuts. Like, no pushback whatsoever, no ability to read and comprehend the things that you're reading. And then you just get shit like this, where literally the evidence that they have to prove their point disproves their point. Holy shit.
So much for having me on and thanking the community for all the support and everything. It was just all good vibes. It was just nothing but positive vibes about the whole thing. So
here he is calling in during the episode to debrief. All right, well, we have Aubrey on the phone.
We do.
Oh, this is so funny, dude. So the segment they show from the episode Aubrey called in on was not the segment that Aubrey was talking about, which was the Jimmy Lee segment. The segment they show is Aubrey calling in after Ethan Klein played the Jimmy Lee segment. Why not show the previous segment, Ethan? Are you going to show the previous segment? Maybe he does.
Thank you. So that we'll just say hi to Aubrey, thank him for his time, and
I'm bringing him in right now.
Honor him.
I think I just included this to just
going
demonstrate
into a
that
pit of
he was
vipers
on a second time, like we said. Hey.
Oh, hello. Is this live already?
It sure is.
Hi, we'll go live. Look at this comment from the person with the Palestinian flag. Of course, that's enough for them to automatically hate me. I could not.
Bro, honestly, if you're gonna like talk about killing Palestinians every time you get criticized, you can just fucking like stay in your house, okay? I'm just gonna say that. Just stay in your house. Let your family leave. You stay in your house, Ethan. I'm so sick of this shit. Oh, they have a Palestinian flag. They're against genocide. Thus, they must hate me. Dude, just Jesus Christ. Just stay in your house, Ethan. Stay in your house.
Imagine being in that moment. I'm glad you had such grace because I do not. I'm glad you're here now and sharing your story as well. It felt, and then Aubrey says, it felt like the wind got knocked out of me. But nevertheless, we continue to thrive. Shut the fuck up, you liar. You liar. Can't you do
Douchebag.
something like that you don't have to lie about to get clout? Do something that's actually fucking worthy.
Wow, I felt bad being confronted with bigotry that demeans me as a human. Ethan says, you're a liar. You did not feel bad. Even though you wrote in and said you felt bad, you're a liar. Oh my God, dude. Ethan is like so fucking hateful. Like, this was such a dark and evil podcast from Ethan. Also, why, like, dude, you're literally going through comments on Aubrey's videos on TikTok and you find a comment from someone that has the Palestinian flag and you choose that to highlight. Oh my God, dude. So literally, like, Ethan is now at the point where he's scrolling through comments on Aubrey's TikTok or like any kind of hate video that Ethan perceives as a hate video against him. He's singling out the ones that support Palestine and then he's putting them on blast. He didn't cover out the person's name. He showed it on his channel. How many views does this channel have? 672,000 views. He shows this person's full TikTok name. The reason he targets them is because they have a Palestinian flag in their fucking username. It's honestly disgusting. Like, he is just doing stuff that the HDL is saying. So I've made the argument before, or the ADL, not the HDL. I've made the argument before that Ethan is only targeting anti-Semitism, at least perceived anti-Semitism, when it comes from people that are pro-Palestine. Hassan, Rogan, Emma Vigeland, even like Sam Cedar, Felix Bitterman, all of these people that are pro-Palestine. Even when he targets real anti-Semitism, it's also coming from people that are pro-Palestine, like Dan Bilzerian, like Theo Vaughn. I mean, where's this anti-Semitism from Ben Shapiro when Ben Shapiro says Jewish people must be this monolith and he determines who's a real Jewish person or not? Where's all of this targeting of anti-Semitism from guys like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, who are actually against Palestine, who are actually pro-Israel, but they're still extremely anti-Semitic? Ethan, as far as he's concerned, anti-Semitism begins and ends with advocacy for Palestinians, which is extremely dark, but that is the pattern of behavior we're seeing. And now he sees anyone that is pro-Palestine is actually against him personally. If anyone has a Palestinian flag in their bio name, they're against Ethan. Like, he has just devolved into this level of hatred where he's just like lashing out at anything that can possibly be perceived as a hit against Ethan Klein. Oh my God. Really, really sad to see. Because when Ethan first made that video against Hassan, which kind of like first made me start covering this whole shit, it was not as bad as it is now. But he's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And yeah, he's gotten to the point where now he's saying that Hassan is rooting for the fires to take out his computer. And you can say that's like sarcasm. And it's like, oh, haha, like, of course, like, even though he'd be like, Hassan doesn't really think that. But it's funny to think about, like, if Hassan is rooting for my computer to get destroyed, because then that hate video won't come out. But it's like, dude, your house is about to be engulfed in flames. And you have time to post on Instagram about your hate video that you've been working on for months at this point. It's like, get a fucking life, dude. Like, I know your podcast is all drama shit, but this is unhealthy at this point.
Of people liking it without lying about me, you dickhead, you bitch. Anyway.
Was it worth all the
No. Hi, Aubrey. Well, first of all, you got the post?
Yeah.
Oh, you found it.
I sent a screenshot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So, Aubrey, here's the post Aubrey made. It's been deleted, but here's the
I have
title.
the full post.
Yeah.
If you want
Oh,
it.
you have the full post?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
it's
a screenshot. I was just sending this to show
Oh, yeah, I
that
want the
it was
full
deleted.
post. So, by the way, isn't it funny that he erased his account and the post right as the story was breaking? Wow, it's almost like he's intentionally lying. You're a fucking liar, dude. Oh, I'm so happy. You're so brave. I can't believe you sat across from that Nazi fascist.
Why the fuck you lying?
I'm not surprised he hates little people. You're so brave. Thank you for sharing the story with me.
Bro, it was literally talking about him sitting across from... It was literally him talking about sitting across from comedians that were bigoted against him. didn't say he felt the wind like pushed out of him and when he was talking to you. Oh my God. Like, dude, did Ethan actually forget about the Jimmy Lee segment? I actually think Ethan forgot about the segment where he had Aubrey on to talk with Jimmy Lee. And so when he hears Aubrey talking about how he was sitting across from bigots and it was a punchline of his appearance on the show and how the crew was laughing at him and all of the crew members were like, what? Why do you think it was a punchline? Like, no one was laughing. We were actually allowing you to make your case, and it was an informational and educational segment. Like, I think Ethan forgot about the first segment that they showed on that podcast. That makes the most sense to me.
We love you, Aubrey.
Why you always lying?
By the way, next video, 20,000 views. Nobody gives a fuck. They come for the hate. They tell you how great you are, and then they move the fuck on because they don't care about you or anything you're about. They don't give a shit
Yeah, well, it's so nice of you to platform Aubrey on your show to get more views.
about dwarf act and not clout for one day, and everybody moved on, dude. Here he said, shout out to the Dwamily. He's making a joke about him being a dwarf. Dwamily, I'm assuming?
Yeah, family.
Shout out to the Dwamily. It's Aubrey, the person with dwarfism who called in. Thank you, Ethan, the crew, and everyone in the chat for being so welcoming and respectful. What? Wait, hold on. Whoa. He just said thank you for everyone for being so welcoming and respectful.
Weird.
And shout out to Cam for editing. If anybody wants to donate to our film, we have 16 days left. DearAverageHeightPeople.com. I don't remember, but I think we did raise a bit of money actually even for his project.
I'm sure we got donuts from our audience.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking for the screenshot. Where is that? You sent it in the, oh, here it is.
Yeah, he wrote everything.
It was the same thing. It was just the title was the post.
And then this is his comment too at the top. Oh no, this is him here. Shout out, dude. Love seeing your chat. Your kindness and patience is something more people should endeavor to have. Doing my part, one conversation at a time. Thank you for the kind words. Bro, what happened?
Class act.
Literally, I changed, you changed, motherfucker. What happened to you?
Yeah.
The dick. But we have more, of course. It's not even everything we've got. Anyway, just to show you the tone of the conversation.
Thank you so much for taking on the unfathomable task of trying to.
Yeah, so I went over this before, but it's like Aubrey being nice to people in public to try to maintain that relationship with the podcast and try to get podcast fans to check out his content and, just promote his brand is in no way invalidating his feelings that he did have a poor experience on the show. Like, your own fucking producer, Dan, acknowledged that it was an awkward experience and it got a little spicy. I hope you are okay with it. Like, dude, your own fucking producer acknowledged it was not a good experience for Aubrey. Oh, but he said, thanks for having me on in public, so it must have been a good experience.
Give sensitivity training to Jimmy Lee and my dad.
No, of course. It's honestly, anytime that people are willing to have a conversation, it's so important to have a conversation. And I'm honestly shocked that you guys, allowed that to happen in the first place because, just like dwarfism representation, it's just really, really hard to not be taken as a joke. And I was really excited that the Reddit, community and my fellow foot soldiers were there.
Yeah.
Wanting to have that conversation. And me and my producer were just scrolling through the comments. And I think there's almost 200 comments on that thread of me just going back and forth with people asking questions. People were like, oh, I know a person with dwarfism that I really miss that I grew up with. Oh, I, love what you're doing because I...
Keep going, buddy. Keep going, man. Tell us more about how much you loved the experience and how wholesome it was and how great it was and how you were talking with everybody in the community back and forth because it was just so fun and so great. Look at the chat, by the way. Aubrey, we love you. We love you, Aubrey. Aubrey has such good vibes. Such a king.
I mean, once again, Aubrey never said he was treated badly by the podcast, by the chat, by the community. I mean, now he's been treated pretty badly by everyone involved. All he said is that he signed on to do an educational content section, and you guys treated him like a bit. Even directly afterwards, in correspondence with the producer of the show, both the producer and Aubrey acknowledged it was an extremely awkward and uncomfortable experience of Aubrey being on there, and he was not able to accurately promote his message of little people representation, and he should actually come back onto the show so he can have a chance to do that. Him and the producer both agreed with that, and now when he says that he had a bad time on the show, which, once again, he and the producer immediately afterwards both said, yeah, that was awkward. Now that he's publicly saying he had a bad time on the show, you're criticizing him. So it's like, if you say publicly, yeah, I had a great time on the show, thanks for having me, that's good with Ethan. But if you say publicly, I had a bad time on the show, then Ethan will basically lob harassment at you.
We love you. Bro, who changed again? Fuck you.
I don't like how
tell me more about how great we are.
people with dwarfism represented on screen. So when with the Jimmy and Gary thing, I'm like, this is, trust me, in comparison to actual like people on the internet who hate me right now and are like actively doing everything they can to exploit people with dwarfism, this was like the easiest thing.
Okay, wow. But what was actually the most interesting is that
sounds like it was a really deep-seated drama.
Yeah. This guy really thinks that he was going to get away with this shit. That's what I'm saying. We're not cashing these checks anymore. Fuck you, dude. Like, I'm glad you got 1 million views and like 170,000 likes from
I mean, once again, show the segment that Aubrey was actually talking about that was awkward. Show the segment that Dan was talking about was too spicy and how things got awkward for you in there. It's like, dude, the emails disprove your point. Dan is talking about how, oh, yeah, that was the easiest thing ever. Haha. Now Aubrey's saying that's bad, right? You literally fucking said things got spicy in there. Hope it wasn't too much for you in the fucking email directly after the show. And now you're laughing about him saying that that was the easiest thing ever. I mean, he's obviously putting on airs to try to show that he wasn't really bothered by it, even though he quite obviously was bothered by it. Like, holy shit, dude. If your existence is being persecuted by two people that you signed up to talk to, and they're like being blatantly bigoted against you when you sign up to talk to them, and you're under the impression that it's going to be an educational segment on the show, and then you show up and they're like, yeah, actually fuck these people, then you're like, oh shit, like this is different than what I was expecting it to be. I thought it was going to be like, okay, well, we brought a person here to talk with you about this and try to educate you on some of these things. And instead, you basically like walk on mid-joke that's like demeaning your existence. And you're like, yeah, shit, like that was quite awkward. Like everyone's going to find that to be a hard experience to get through. And Dan even acknowledged that in the fucking emails after the show.
everybody that is like thinks I'm a fascist.
That you actually seem to break through to Jimmy Lee. Although, well, that's questionable because 2 days later he did write, "I fucking hate midgets" in his description. And apologies for using that word just to retell what he wrote.
In the full version, I got caught slipping too. I was like, midget this, midget that, because it's not. I want to move past the word as the most interesting things that people with autism can.
By the way, I don't believe I've said that word. I don't think I've said that word on the show once since that. I mean, I don't think I've said this. That is not my vocabulary. I've completely phased out like anything that might be offensive to little people. You know. Yeah, give it up. Go ahead.
Okay, Ethan, why did you phase out that word? Because you were just using it to accurately describe the post that Jimmy Lee made in the days following that confrontation with Aubrey. He posted, "I hate M-words." But then when you had Aubrey on the show, you said, "Oh, he said," and then you said the entire thing. And you're like, "Oh, sorry, I was just trying to, give you the full context of everything." But now, 2 years later, you're saying, "I haven't said that word since." Well, why haven't you said the word since? Is it because even if you're using it to accurately describe context and you're just quoting someone, saying the full word can still be hurtful to some people? So now you realize that's hurtful, but back then you said it directly to a little person's face. You used a slur describing little people to a little person's face. And now you're saying, yeah, 2 years after that, I realized that that was a harmful thing to do, and I haven't used that word since. It has been eliminated from my vocabulary. So you know that it's a harmful thing to do, and you use it in front of a little person. Thus, you, by your own definition, by your own logic reasoning of no longer using the word, you made it an awkward situation for that little person, and you made it difficult for, it was just a discriminatory word that you use. It's a slur that you use in the face of someone who it demeans. And now you're saying oh, I wouldn't use that word anymore. Well, you did back then. So once again, this is more evidence that that was not a sunshine and rainbows appearance on the H3 show for Aubrey.
Hey, Aubrey, you got through to me, buddy. We had such a great, wholesome conversation. I would never use that word. Never.
offer, you know? And that was what I was ultimately trying to get across to Jimmy. I was like, what do you do? It's word, buddy. And he even made a joke. He was like, oh, I have a few jokes. Because I was like, let's go through some jokes. We can workshop it. And he was like, oh, you're something black and you can't, I bet you won't be playing basketball. And I'm like, there's literally people with dwarfism who, they're not, playing with LeBron James, but they're traveling around the world being paid thousands of dollars every week to be the global Globetrotters. His name's Manny. He's an incredible, incredible person. And
Aubrey, you did the impossible. King. We love you, Aubrey. Aubrey's a good man. Okay, I love you, Aubrey, forever. Aubrey is doing impossible things. There it is.
Kill me, Smalls. That's his last name.
That's a reference to a movie or something?
Sandlot. I know it.
Okay, so I also like how Ethan's reading the chat and they're like, Aubrey's so bad. He's like, he's so based, right? He's so cool. We love Aubrey. And it's like, well, now Aubrey's a shitty person now that he's criticizing the podcast. So once again, it's kind of like that. Oh, he's so good everywhere else. He has such a great track record, but he's criticizing me now, so he must be a shitty person. Like, it's kind of that same thing.
You ever heard of Kill Me, Smalls?
I haven't heard it in a long time.
Also, if Aubrey came out and said, like, I didn't have a good time on the podcast in the immediate aftermath, first of all, he wouldn't have gotten that follow-up appearance like a few days later. And second of all, he would not have all of that love in Ethan's Reddit and in Ethan's chat. So it's like, this is evidence. This is supporting evidence for why Aubrey was saying publicly he had such a great time and it was like so productive and fruitful.
You have to say it like that.
Yeah, you're killing me. You're killed me, Smalls?
You're killing me, Smalls.
Oh, you're killing. Yeah, okay. Next. AB's back. We're so back.
Classic. It's a well-known.
It's a well-known line.
I was listening. I got you. There it is.
Give it up. We're back.
I'm just trying to tie my shoe here. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see. So we looked at the follow-up post. Here Aubrey responded to my story saying like, I'm not cashing these checks anymore. Fuck you for lying. And here is he trying desperately to do a little damage control here. Let's see.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to talk about this
6 minutes. I got to watch this guy try to explain why he fucking lied about me and kept the video up.
And so then we're moving on. I posted a video today.
Oh, I'm not moving on.
I don't think we have to watch all of it.
I think it's nice that you're ready to move on. I mean,
yeah, that seems convenient.
Yeah, good for you, man. While I'm on break for 2 weeks.
About a podcast appearance that I was on 2 years ago, and although I did not disclose the name or the podcast that I was on, the viewer...
Shut up. Don't be a coward, dude. Everybody knows what you're talking about. Like, stop. Just stand on your shit.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're going to talk shit, at least don't be a coward like this. It's so obvious. We know what you're talking about, dude. Everybody immediately know.
I figured it out. So I wanted to address the comments and questions to the recent Instagram post that Ethan Klein made about me a few minutes ago. This is a deeply...
Already, he's the victim. This man came, lied about me to fucking millions of people, farmed clout, and he's now already the victim before I even got an opportunity to respond.
Personal and important topic for me, so I wanted to take some time to set the record straight and share my side of the story. There's been a lot of conversation from Ethan.
Did you already do that?
Klein's fans about me trying to clout chase by sharing this story, which again never mentioned his name, and then I'm trying to capitalize.
Oh, you're such a coward.
Ever. Like, come on, dude.
You are such a coward. Did you really think that was going to let you sidestep accountability?
I mean, Ethan's only argument is that you're clout chasing. Kind of embarrassing. It's like you are platforming this guy. You are promoting his content by criticizing it and reposting it and reposting it again. It's like, and now you're mad that he's clout chasing? You are allowing this to happen. You encourage people to criticize you because then it gives you content for them for you to criticize them back.
Like, are you that dumb? Maybe you are that dumb.
So is this video before or after you tried to remove the evidence of...
This is after he tried to remove the evidence.
Exactly,
Yeah, this is after.
Hilarious.
It's off of Ethan's current situation. That couldn't be further from the truth, so I wanted to make this video to explain everything.
Then what? If that couldn't be further from true, why did you comment about how I'm crashing out on the internet at the end? If that's not unrelated, then why the fuck did you even say that? You know?
In full context. In 2022, I was a listener of a podcast, and there was one episode where they were talking about phobias and fears of little people and proper wording for people with dwarfism. At the time, they're using slurs that most of them...
That is not true. That's not. We were absolutely not using slurs. That's so fucked up. Like, why?
The whole point is that this...
Okay, dude, if Ethan says, like, he says the M slur out loud multiple times in the episode where he has Aubrey on twice, Aubrey has 2 appearances, Ethan says the M slur multiple times in the name of accurately repeating other people's usage of the M slur. Now Ethan says that I don't use the slurs anymore. Then how is Ethan saying it's not true that they were using the M slurs on his podcast? First of all, he platformed a quote-unquote comedian that used the M slurs. You used them yourself, and after that appearance, you're like, okay, I don't know if he like broke up with Jimmy Lee after that, but at least Ethan said, yeah, I haven't used the M slurs since. So you admit you were using the M slur, and now you stopped using the M slur. And now you're saying that it's not true we were using the M slur. Once again, there is no like logic flowing through any of these people's brains. It's like, is this like the focal point for the origin of the disease from The Last of Us spreading, where their brains are just all melting due to a fungus?
dude was, and we were confronting him about it, like on your side, and you know that.
Using slurs that most of
That is not true.
That's not.
We were absolutely not using slurs. That's so fucked up. Like, why?
The whole point is that this dude was, and we were confronting him about it, like on your side, and you know that. It's just
he's such a
It's like these children's games. We're like, oh, I never said it.
Yeah.
But like, we're all adults here. We know what's going on.
Stop hitting yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's just not true, man. You're fucking lying, dude. Fuck you.
of us know are not appropriate, but I figured it would be a great opportunity to see if I could get on the show to talk about the proper verbiage and to educate people on dwarfism. As someone with dwarfism myself who experiences in-person and online harassment just because of the fact that I have a disability, I was hoping that this appearance would help bridge the gap of understanding and start some meaningful dialogue.
We
Of course,
were
really during
too.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
I mean, that's what
we're all on the same page.
Well, hold on.
That's what happened.
That's a
what
great
happened.
idea.
He, by his own admission and emphatically emphasized throughout.
Okay, I mean, this clip is a little older, but I mean, it's still extremely relevant. Let's see, do we get volume on this?
It's derogatory? They don't want it. It's because, do you know what's the weirdest one? Little people. Oh, isn't that so derogatory? Hey, little guy. Yeah, little guy. Hey, I got a bunch of little guys
Now,
over
what
here.
would be a better option?
What?
Offer up some options
But what was
for
the
them besides
problem with
little people.
midget? I'm sorry if I'm.
Happy.
What is the problem
Uncle
with?
Happy. Hey, Happy.
No, I really don't know.
I
Is
think
midget like?
well, I grew up
a
calling
bad
it
word?
midgets, but I guess apparently people probably started to use it derogatory. Like I would go to Bobby because he's a little shorter and say, "What's up, midget?"
Yeah. I think, but dwarf was never used in a derogatory way.
Yeah, what's the
Because
problem?
dwarf is
or I guess
right?
they're different.
So dwarf is a
medical term.
Yeah.
Exactly. They're different. The midgets and the dwarfs, they don't like each other.
Why?
They're at war with each other. Have you seen Willow? You remember Willow?
How smarter because they're bigger heads?
Dwarves are smarter, and then midgets have magical powers.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's in Willow.
Yeah. Willow.
Yeah, so it's like, and Ethan saying that he wasn't using derogatory terms for little people and he really didn't need any education. It's just that they're pointing at other people. I mean, Aubrey is definitely in the right to say that, slurs were being used on the show, even if they're just platforming Jimmy Lee and then laughing at the bigotry.
Throughout the whole experience, that's what happened. Yep. This community was so graceful and accepting and supportive, and it's so fucked, dude, that people just want to shit on me like this. Fuck you, man. Like, doesn't this undermine everything you believe in? That you're just gonna come out and lie about someone who's genuinely supporting you? Like, what exactly is the point of you even doing activism when that's the level you're stooping to get attention?
Episode, I was subjected to ableist jokes and comments about little people that made me.
By the way, in the email clearly stated exactly what we were going to show and exactly why and exactly who it was about. And him being a fan of the show, he, of course, understood the context of everything. You're a liar.
Really uncomfortable. I kept my composure and smiled at the time. It was really hurtful, to be honest. I didn't even know how to process it in the moment.
You're lying, dude.
Except for doing what I do best, which is putting a smile on things and trying to spin it in a positive direction. Immediately afterwards, I emailed the crew asking if I could come back on the show during a live segment.
How's he going to spin that into like, it was such a terrible experience, I was disassociating, and I immediately emailed them to come back on the show. Like, even the people watching this are dumb as fuck who are buying this. Like, everybody's just dumb as fuck who's involved in this.
Yeah.
To talk about what I wanted to talk about in the first place, because I was worried.
Yeah, he immediately emailed to come back on the show. Bro, he said it was an awkward situation. He said that he did not do what he wanted to do, which was promote advocacy for little people. Even your producer said it was spicy and he was worrying that it might have been too much for Aubrey. All of that is an indicator that it was a very poor experience that Aubrey had. And of course, he emailed to come back onto the show because both your producer and Aubrey agreed that he did not promote his message that he signed up to do. Like, he did not promote the message that he agreed to come onto the show to promote.
That just the segment we had filmed would leave a bad taste in people's mouths and make them
hold on. Oh yeah,
assume that I was part of this joke that I was never keyed in on.
That is a liar. You know, lie.
Liar, dude.
You are a
Rewinding this.
Like, even the people watching this are dumb as fuck who are buying this. Like, everybody's just dumb as fuck who's involved in this.
Yeah.
To talk about what I wanted to talk about in the first place, because I was worried that just the segment we had filmed would leave a bad taste in people's mouths and make them
hold on. Oh yeah,
assume that I was part of this joke that I was never keyed in on.
That is a liar. You know, lie.
Liar, dude.
You are a caught liar, Aubrey. Isn't that Drake's name?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're saying Aubrey is a liar because he was never keyed in on the joke. Well, he knew he was going to talk to the comedians, right? He knew that they were going to play a compilation of the M-word jokes that Jimmy Lee was using. What he didn't know is that it was going to, the segment that he was talking with them was going to be portrayed as a gotcha moment for Jimmy Lee for comedic effect. He didn't know that the entire cast and crew were going to be laughing throughout that segment, and then afterwards also laugh that Jimmy Lee was still being bigoted against little people. That's what he did not know. So when they're saying that he was lying, that he didn't know that's what the segment was going to be, like, they're just kind of being malicious. I mean, you can say they're ignorant or stupid at best, like that's putting them in a good light, but I think they're just kind of being malicious and being spiteful. They do not like the fact that their reputation was attacked, and they're lashing out against it aggressively, maliciously, kind of evil, very bullying, in a very bullying manner. Yeah, they don't really know what they're talking about.
Coincidence? Not trying to say anything, just that they're both dickheads.
Yeah. Both liars.
Yeah, they're both liars. That's true.
Certified liar.
This, bro, you actually need
liar boy.
You need to put out a TikTok, erase all your videos, and say I lied. That's what you need to do to make this right. And you should want to do that because it's the right thing. And you're supposed to be an activist, right? So it's time to activate your ass and to apologize and admit you lied. Because at this point, I mean, you know, legal recourse is certainly a path that I'll fucking sue Aubrey. I don't give a shit. Like, I genuinely don't care. I don't care if he's poor or he can't pay me back or he's small or he doesn't have the resources. I don't care. Oh, when I say small, I mean creator.
I got you.
Yeah, I just want to clear that up. He's a small creator. People always say that.
Yeah, I got you. I mean,
I felt that no.
I get
that's
the
what they told me.
sentiment, but I feel like I mean we are discrediting him pretty thoroughly here. Like,
yeah, but
not enough.
The million plus people that saw it on TikTok, you think they're gonna see any of this?
Yeah, I guess.
Post on TikTok, spread the word. I like put out an edited version of this, but Jesus Christ, dude, like they're like, we're discrediting him. Very good. How are you discrediting him? By showing the emails where you said it was a spicy segment and I hope it wasn't too much for you, and Aubrey says that it was awkward and he didn't actually achieve the kind of representation that he hoped to achieve by coming onto the show? Is that how you're discrediting him? Because all of that is actually supporting what Aubrey was saying. I mean, the only thing these fuckers have done is discredit the positive posts that Aubrey had put out there, saying that he had a great time on the podcast. Sure, they did a great job of discrediting that. They haven't discredited anything else that Aubrey has said.
That's a good point.
And now I'm going to have to go on Twitter and be like, not only does Ethan want to kill Palestinian babies, he actually hates little people.
Yeah.
I saw a guy on TikTok talking about it. No, I don't give a shit. This is why you don't lie about people, especially in a professional setting when you can just hurt their reputation. These laws exist for a reason, okay? I've never expressed it. I've never pulled that lever, but I think it's about time to start.
You could pull a Taylor Swift, Gwyneth Paltrow sue for $1.
Yeah.
For
I mean,
cause.
I'm not going to get.
So Olivia has gone from saying, I'm so sad that Aubrey felt bad about coming onto our show, to now saying you can sue Aubrey for $1. So Olivia is the moderate in this podcasting room. Don't sue Aubrey for everything. Just sue him for $1 to make a point. All right, Olivia, great job being friends with Aubrey. Yeah, Aubrey was saying that he had a bad time coming on your show, and now you're like, let's just sue him for $1.
Out of him. It's just to
the sentiment.
Yeah, it's just to fucking, you know.
Let's just sue him for $1 for the sentiment. Dude, fuck off. Look, if he's actually your friend, then like you can do a better job defending him than you have been doing. You can read through those emails and be like, okay, well, he did say he didn't actually do the thing that he wanted to do on his first appearance, and that's why he wanted to come back. You can say that, well, we did kind of use that segment as a joke, and people were laughing about the segment in the background. You could say, he did say that it was awkward there, and Dan did say that it was a spicy segment, and he hoped it wasn't too much for Aubrey. You could say that, but instead what you say is, well, instead of suing him for everything and bankrupting him, you should just sue him for $1. And we all know that in America, even if you have no legal standing for a lawsuit, if you're litigious enough and you have enough money, you can bankrupt someone by basically forcing them to go through the lawsuit process and dragging it out forever. And even if you have no standing, the cost of defending yourself in that lawsuit, will bankrupt you. Lawyers are expensive. Ethan has money. He has lawyers on retainer for all of these lawsuits that he gets into. Aubrey, I'm assuming, is not really in the position to go into these protracted, drawn-out legal battles that can last for years. I don't think he's in that position monetarily where he can win a battle against Ethan Klein. So this is just legal bullying from Ethan, similar to what Donald Trump does.
stand up for myself. You know, fuck you, man. What an asshole.
He is an asshole.
Ugh.
And you should definitely delete the videos and apologize, like you said, like
Yeah.
at a minimum.
Like even without a lawsuit looming.
Yeah,
like that seems like a logical
that's just
thing to do.
obviously
when
the right
proven
thing to do, man.
And it can't be like some bullshit. You have to say I lied about them. You actually have to say I lied. That's the thing. You have to take responsibility for this, bro. You don't get to weasel your way out of this. You have to say I lied. Admit it, bro.
So I was on the show again a few days later after the segment we had pre-filmed aired, and they played it again and then had me come on to talk about it. And I just stayed positive because I was hoping that if I was positive and I was focusing on the good, that people would forget about the segment essentially. I was hoping that by focusing on kindness and grace and showing empathy, that would go farther and people would remember me by that as opposed to what happened during that segment. Ethan and the crew talked on the show, that episode, the live one, about how they had to edit a lot of stuff down. So I hope that maybe one day they'll release the full videos.
What? What is it you want?
Nobody is saying that Jimmy Lee isn't an asshole about little people.
Yeah,
Like, we're all on
was
the
it
same.
too offensive, or do you want us to put out like the unedited version that's going to get us like demonetized and be like super offensive? Like, what is it you want?
I mean, Aubrey is saying he had a bad time on your show. You are saying he did not have a bad time on your show. The evidence that you're using to show that he didn't have a bad time on your show is an extremely edited down video from multiple hours to 10 minutes long, and then some emails where Aubrey said he actually didn't have a good time on your show. What he's asking you to do is release the unedited content, the extremely adversarial conversation he had with two bigoted comedians. Release that. It doesn't have to be on your main channel. It doesn't have to be part of your podcast episode where you think you might get demonetized. You can just release it anywhere. Have Dan release it on his personal channel. Release it from the paywall so that people can actually see the segment that Aubrey said he had a bad time on. That's what he wants you to do. It is not complicated to understand what he's doing. Like, if you think it's complicated, you're kind of a dumbass. And he's going to say here that if he released it, then we would have gotten demonetized.
You think, is he implying that we're hiding something? You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
But you can see all of the jokes that I was subjected to that didn't even make it into the final cut. After the episode,
I thought it was live to 50,000 people.
in the days following, I posted
Here's the one he went and erased and then made this video about it.
on the subreddit thanking the host and the crew for having me on because I wanted to focus on the positives, which was that the audience.
Dude, the way he's trying to spin this is so fucking pathetic. It's like, I had such a terrible experience, and then I immediately asked to go back on. And then I went to the subreddit and thanked everybody in the community. But it's just because I want to put a positive spin on it. It's like, shut up, dude. How much support did this?
Actually, like, what is wrong with that? Of course, he had a terrible experience, so he wanted to come back on so he could actually promote the things he wanted to promote. And then he's going to go onto the subreddit and be positive there so that he gets more attention, more views, is able to spread his cause even further. Like, how, nothing about that doesn't make any sense. All of that is completely logical.
This video get?
This TikTok?
Yeah.
Let me find it.
Did you link me his original one?
And then when Ethan can't actually criticize him, he's just like, oh, you did things. But he says it in a tone that indicates it's stupid for you to have done those things. And then he'll go to, well, how many views did he get from mentioning me? What's funny is, like, he can't really do that with my channel because my channel is basically all criticizing Ethan. So he's going to be like, how many views does he get from mentioning me? It's like, dude, people hate you so much that the literal channels have been growing up just shitting on you because you are freaking out so much.
Yes.
I'll get that one.
Yeah, if I win any money, I'll donate to a little people activism group.
Let's see.
I want to find the original TikTok. Just
holy shit, dude, that is fucking dark. So Ethan says, I'm going to sue Aubrey, and who is an activist for little people, and he says, any money I get from suing Aubrey, I'm going to donate it to a little person activist group. That is like a supervillain move right there. It's like, yeah, I know your entire life has been advocating for little people, but because you said you had a bad time on my show, like arguing against people that are bigoted against little people, I'm going to sue you, take the money that I get from ruining your life, and then donate it to little people activism. Dude, that's actually like kind of a poetically written supervillain arc.
To see how deranged the comments are.
He on the second one, the follow up, he has 250K views.
Nice. So he's farming in a second time.
There you go. Round two.
Oh, I liked it on accident. Let's see.
Dude, yeah. What do you think you're doing, Ethan? You spent literally like a third of this podcast criticizing Aubrey. You're not farming this drama at all. Holy shit.
That podcast was how I found you. They tanked, you rose. Wait, so you watched that and you still are? I guess even as an audience member, you don't see the emails and stuff.
Right.
H3 sucks.
Oh, look at that comment. They didn't even tell you? That's crazy. Yeah, that would be crazy.
That would be crazy, except that's a lie. It didn't happen at all.
They didn't even tell you? That's crazy. 1,300 likes. Them treating you like a prop is so awful. I am so sorry. 6,000 likes. Please stop supporting H3 entirely. And he's now. My name is a slur apparently. And Ethan Klein.
Oh
shit. Ethan
Yo, you're
Klein.
just phobic, dude. This is a new one.
Wait, what's phobic?
You're just generally a fearful guy.
I just hate.
You're really
I'm afraid.
scary.
I'm a
He's a
Zionist.
coward.
I'm a phobic, a certified crash out. Not to mention unfunny. Even though I was a fan for 5 years.
I watched and was a member for 8 years, but he's not funny.
I never thought he was funny actually. His wife was an IOF too, and is a Palestine G-slide denier. G-slide? Genocide? Yeah. Why do you write
What
it like
the
that?
fuck are you
Just say
writing,
what you
dude?
mean. Like,
Yeah.
are you talking about something as serious as genocide, and you're gonna write it that fucking silly? Like, you're a pathetic loser.
Blur it.
Oh my god, dude. Is Ethan actually so fucking stupid where he doesn't realize like the algorithm will auto delete your comment or will like basically downvote your comment if you write certain buzzwords the platforms don't want you to write? Once again, I mean, he's like selectively going after people that criticize Israel and the genocide they're doing. I mean, he targeted other comments too, but he spent the most time on this, and he's like, oh, you're against genocide? Well, why don't you write it out in the actual word? Why are you using slang for it?
I cannot imagine being in that moment. I'm glad you had such grace because I read that one.
Yep.
This is such a terrible thing to do. People seriously lack empathy. This guy, for sure, never watched this video. This guy's lying. Dude, I thought this exact thing when I watched that episode. What are you talking about, bro? You speaking out that you felt just as uncomfortable really solidified it for me. I'm done with H3. I thought you were in on it. Okay, well, he was in on it. Yeah.
Right.
So I guess if you missed that.
Yeah.
Don't let Ethan intimidate you. Your story's important, and I'm grateful for you sharing it. I stopped watching them forever ago because of how they treat other people in the name of humor. I'm sorry.
No.
Oh my God. You should have sued them. Can you?
Okay, I think that comment where they quote humor is the most biting comment that actually would hurt Ethan Klein's feelings the most. It's like, yeah, dude, you're not funny. You're not a comedian. You're just like a jumped up drama YouTuber. That's literally just what he is. I just think that comment's hilarious. I stopped watching them forever because of how they treat other people in the name of humor. It's like, I feel like that one should hurt Ethan's feelings the most.
Can you sue that? Can you sue for that? You should sue them. Can you sue for that?
Oh, he replied.
He responded, no, that's not something you sue over, but lol at the sentiment. Well, it turns out what you're doing is.
He's like, don't say that word.
Yeah.
Man.
I sent the comment he responded to on the second video.
I can't believe what a fucking asshole he is. What a liar. Dude, like, you didn't have to make that video, you know?
Yeah.
You just didn't.
Hi, everyone.
Here's his explanation video where he continues to lie. Ethan is crashing out. Sorry you have to fall victim to Ethan Klein IG story, dude. You rock. Ethan Klein is a full adult who says horrendous things, and people treat him like he's a toddler that needs to be coddled.
I'm so wait, hold on. What did that say?
I'm so sick of interpersonal relationships. I think they meant parasocial. These people are actually so dumb.
Some of the dumbest people on the fucking face of the earth. They really are.
U.S. funding atrocities is their name.
Okay.
They're all the same people. It's like the same, like, anti-American.
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude. Yeah, because calling out the atrocities the U.S. funds is anti-American. So any kind of criticism of the United States now is too far for Ethan. It's like, dude, calling out the atrocities America does is the most pro-American thing you can do. It's literally trying to better if you're an American citizen, it's literally trying to better your country if you call out the atrocities. But, I mean, oh, Jesus. Like, Ethan's devolved so far where he's now at the point where he criticizes Hassan for criticizing America. Like, I know Hassan said this before, but Ethan is almost to the point where he's like, if you hate America so much, why do you live here? It's fucking nuts, dude. I mean, what has he done? He's called out someone for saying G-slide, and he's like, just stand on your own 2 feet, say genocide, you little pussy. He called out someone for having a Palestinian flag in their username, and he's like, it's all of these pro-Palestinian people. Now he's calling out this guy for saying U.S. funding atrocities, and he's like, it's all of these people that hate America. Like, dude, you are literally just becoming a conservative at this point.
Like, their whole identity is like supporting, is like just about hating Israel.
Just a tribe, just another tribe.
There's no timeline for when you're allowed to feel uncomfortable by a situation. Well, they're doing this thing where they're like, I can decide I looked back and I was offended by it anytime I want. You can never take it away from me. It's like, well, we can. Because we've got all the fucking communications. What? He says I emailed them right after we filmed.
Wait. Oh shit. All right, I'm gonna move my username. So anyway, like what that person says is completely correct, and obviously Aubrey says, I emailed them right after we filmed it, expressing, and then Ethan's blocking it, but it's probably gonna be something like expressing my uncomfortableness on the show, and that's true. That's 100% true. So let's see if Ethan reads that, and then just once again, it's like even if Aubrey said I had a great time on the show, thanks for having me, to Dan. And now he's saying I didn't have a good time on the show. That wouldn't preclude him from having feelings of regret from going on the show. And I know that what they're going to say is, well, we have the communications where we told you that we were going to play clips of Jimmy Lee being bigoted. We told you we were going to do that, and you said you came on without any warning. And it's like, yeah, I came on without any warning for them. They weren't warned that I was coming on. So once again, they're misunderstanding what he's saying and threatening to sue him over that because of their lack of media comprehension skills. They have an entire fucking studio and not one person is able to understand that. I mean, maybe they're just too afraid to push back against Ethan's crusade on him. Maybe they're just all sycophants.
The first time I expressed it felt awkward for all of us. I was very transparent with them.
No, you said it was awkward. Or you apologized for it being awkward, but...
We apologize.
He says, I hope these are part of the receipts Ethan is referencing. Oh my God.
They are. And they were.
They were.
This is so valid. I almost never realized how uncomfortable I am.
Okay, so Aubrey says I emailed them saying it was awkward. They say, yeah, it was awkward. We emailed also saying it's awkward. And they're like, all right, well, let's just move on. Okay, so you admit that he did not... I mean, this flies in the face of what Ethan said, like, at the beginning. He's like, this was a wholesome experience where Aubrey felt comfortable. And now they're saying that, yeah, he did say it was awkward, and we said it was awkward. Okay, so was it a wholesome experience where he felt comfortable, or was it awkward? And then he says that it was awkward, and he said that his appearance there was used as a bit.
I am by a situation until days later, sometimes longer. Yeah, he waited days, he has to come on. He continued to interact, and...
I mean, again... If it was that bad, it was totally an option to just not. This was not a live episode. Like, I don't know what this dude's thinking.
Yeah, we were just all under the impression that you really wanted to do this. Not to say that jumping into a conversation with Jimmy about ableism is ever the right thing to do. Like that's a very difficult situation. But we were all under the impression that that's what you wanted to do because that's what you told us. So what else could we have done?
I like how he impugns all you guys too. The crew was all laughing at me.
Yeah,
nobody's just such a joke,
bro.
Dude, okay, once again, Aubrey never said the crew was all laughing at him. Aubrey said the crew was laughing because the segment he appeared on was a bit. The crew was laughing. The segment that he appeared on was a bit. And now they're saying, well, you are assigning malicious intent to us, the crew members. It's like, no, he just wasn't expecting it to be played off as comedy. He was not expecting his appearance to be played off as comedy. He even acknowledged that his appearance wasn't what he thought it was going to be in the emails directly after the show. And Dan acknowledged that as well. That's why they brought him on a second time. It's like, this is not complicated. He did not get his message across. He expressed that it was awkward. He expressed that he did not get his message across. And he expressed interest in coming back a second time. You agreed it was awkward. You agreed he did not get his message across. And that's why you brought him on for a second time. It is not a complicated situation. And none of these fucking brain-dead idiots are able to understand that.
I heard Ethan Klein and knew everything I needed to know. Perfect excerpt for a lawsuit. His response was so embarrassing. What, the Instagram? I don't know how an adult with any sense of media presence could have thought that post would make him look like anything other than spiraling sad sack. Well, you should try watching the fucking evidence. Oh man, do you see that? These are the people he's tapping into. It's like there's a whole fucking community on TikTok and Twitter of people that are just, they're obsessed with Israel and the war that's happening. It's like their whole fucking identity. And somehow I get wrapped up into being like the poster child for Israeli war crimes.
Yep.
Now, once again, he's unable to take any criticism. And when he does receive some criticism, he's like, what, you think I support Israeli war crimes? It's like, no, dude, we're just calling you a fucking asshole and you are a liberal Zionist. You are okay with the apartheid that Israel is doing. Sure, you're against genocide. Sure, you're against the colonization that they're doing, but you are fine with the apartheid. Like, shut the fuck up. You are. You said that the solution you want is that Palestine remains in a concentration camp for 50 years, and then maybe we can have a one-state solution after they've been perfect victims. So shut the fuck up, you little bitch. Like, Stop crying anti-Semitism. Stop saying that everyone that's criticizing you is a Zionist. Just take responsibility for what you did. Okay. We're not going to get into the Mika segment. I've been streaming for almost 3 hours. I can do that segment tomorrow if people want. I'm just going to wrap up a few loose ends here and there. So the first thing that I want to show is that, like, this happened. So there's wildfires in California, and Ethan is thinking that he's thinking about his hate video, and he's thinking about Hassan as the wildfires are like a mile away from his house. And he's like, outside our window, it's close, but we're safer now, and wind is blowing away from us. Hassan for sure hoping the fire takes out my computer. Like, you cannot make this shit up, dude. And then let's just get into Hassan's reaction for this.
E somehow made the fire about you? Yes, I saw. When I originally saw this tweet in the morning, I thought it was not real. I thought someone had made this, like, I thought that someone was like making fun of Ethan. And then I found out that this is a real thing that he tweeted, or not tweeted, posted on his Instagram. Outside our window is closed, but we're safer now, and wind is blowing away from us. Hassan for sure hoping the fire takes out my computer. I don't know what to say about this. I hope him and his...
I love how Hassan just gets like more and more frustrated every time he sees another example of Ethan just like freaking out and shitting himself online. And Hassan's just like, oh my God, like what is happening? Like, I don't even know how to respond to this at this point. He's like, no, I do not hate all Jews. No, I do not hope that the fire burns Ethan's house down. It's like, this is the level of just delirium that Ethan Klein is in right now.
Family are fine. I hope their house is fine. It's just, I don't know how you stare down like a wildfire and in your mind think, I'm sure Hassan is hoping that I die or something. I don't know. That's crazy. What about their computer? I hope his computer is fine too. Yes. Ethan Klein, while his family's under the threat of evacuation or worse, can only think of Hassan and the impending video trashing Hassan that he's soon to release. I think we can all safely say Hassan is not thinking about Ethan right now. What an absolute ghoul. He's probably joking, but even though, how can you say this? No, I know he's joking. I think he's just trying to do guerrilla marketing for his fuck Hassan video that he's going to do, not realizing that this probably makes him look really bad for the uninitiated. I don't know. He's just trying to promote his video, man. Don't give it any attention to this. It has 43,000 likes, man. They want you to drama farm it. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. I think it's a strange thing to do. But yeah, I suspect that it's like it's a way to try and you know, get more excitement around this like inevitable content nuke about Hassan, which has existed in perpetuity. It's you know, there's a million of them.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's so funny. Ethan's promoting this content nuke like a rapper promoting some kind of album drop that he's gonna do. It's actually kind of cute. Okay, let's watch this, or let's finish it up with this. So this is a post on the H3 Productions Reddit. It has 1.1K upvotes, so like pretty significant. And let's just take a look at what it says. Content or consent in Aubrey. I saw a post on the Snark Reddit referencing the validity of Aubrey's recount and suggesting that Ethan doesn't understand consent because consent can be given at any time. So let's talk about that. It's disappointing to watch people weaponize a very real experience of victims who stay silent out of fear only to later find the confidence to stand up against the harm they received. I'm a victim of R and SA who volunteers at a women's shelter assisting women experiencing domestic violence. I care deeply about consent and how to bring justice to those who violate it. This is not one of those situations. So just right away, she's saying that it's disappointing to watch people weaponize the very real experience of victims who stay silent out of fear only to later find the confidence to stand up against the harm they receive. So she's saying it's disappointing to watch people weaponize SA. I'm going to weaponize SA right now. She's like, no, I experienced SA. You saying that you had a bad experience on this podcast is not valid because I've experienced SA. Consider the following scenario. Aubrey volunteers to start a dialogue in a notably offensive situation. Aubrey's first instance of consent. An offline dialogue is started to double-check consent for a filmed video. not live. Okay, well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, Aubrey's interacting with the people pretty much live. He doesn't have any control over the editing, so I don't really understand this difference between filmed versus live. Like, it's the same thing for Aubrey. Reiterating the nature of the content to which Aubrey consents, Aubrey's second instance of consent, now even more informed and enthusiastic as the relationship has been established, the video is filmed and an offline dialogue is continued, checking in on the wellness and consent of Aubrey, to which Aubrey enthusiastically and affirmatively consents, third time now, exclamation mark. And finally, Aubrey publicly expresses gratitude for the situation, a further continuation of his enthusiastic and informed consent. Then, of course, there's a second video, but quite frankly, this is enough evidence to prove my point, especially since Aubrey's only referencing the first video. Okay, so let's just pull up these emails again. Let's see if I can find them real quick. So these are, okay, here are the emails. So just once again, he says, thanks, Aubrey. That got a little spicy, and we appreciate you trying your best to educate and inform using the platform. Not sure how it will resonate with Jimmy long term, but we're definitely going to debrief with him and talk it out. Hopefully it wasn't too much for you. There were more resistant than we expected. We will keep you posted on when it will come out. Thanks again. And then Aubrey says, yeah, I know things got awkward in there, but thanks for having me on. So when this person's talking about he enthusiastically gave consent, and then afterwards they reached out again and Aubrey expressed gratitude, I mean, you're kind of ignoring the whole part of the situation where he's like, yeah, that wasn't really what I signed up for. I would appreciate a second chance to come onto the show to actually do what I wanted to do in the first place, which was promote kind of awareness of little people and push back against bigotry against people with dwarfism. And then she's also ignoring the whole, this was a spicy situation. I hope it wasn't too much for you. And then Aubrey saying, yeah, it was really awkward. Right. I mean, what the fuck is this shit either? Like, you can say the same thing about like Louis C.K. and how he's like, oh, do you mind if I like pull my dick out and jerk off in front of you? The woman's like, okay. He's like, I really didn't feel comfortable about it, but like I wanted to advance my career in comedy. And then afterwards, Louis like, that was okay, right? Like, you were fine with that, right? And the woman was like, yeah, like I'm cool. Like, yeah, keep me around, keep me opening for you. I want to keep working with you, Louis. It's like, you're not taking into account the power dynamics here. You can give consent and still be uncomfortable with the situation. Like, sure, maybe you're not going to accuse someone like that of the R word, of doing the R word against you, but you can still, after the fact, be like, yeah, I gave consent, but I was really uncomfortable there. Like, and that's why I don't work with Louis C.K. anymore, because he made me uncomfortable. That is extremely valid. And this woman's like, I've been essayed. You don't know what it's like to be essayed. And thus, let me talk about how your consent invalidates your feelings on this. So let's just see what the conclusion of this is. So is it possible that Aubrey regretted consenting to participating? Of course, but that's not what Aubrey said. I mean, we also need to take into account that Aubrey consented to go onto a show under the assumption that he was going to educate Jimmy Lee, and not that hours-long conversation he had with Jimmy Lee was going to be edited down to 10 minutes as a joke, right? As a punchline to Jimmy Lee's bigotry. That's what the effective content was. That's not what Aubrey signed up for. Aubrey did not share that he volunteered to go on the show. I mean, he literally did say that he volunteered to go on the show in his original video. He did not share the offline interaction with Dan. Okay, why would he? They're literally just setting up his appearance on the show. He did not share the post-offline interaction with Dan. I think he did actually share it, like in that one Reddit comment or in that TikTok comment. He said, yeah, I talked about how awkward it was. Once again, why would he share the post-offline interaction when he's restating it now? He's saying, yeah, I had an uncomfortable experience. The post-offline interaction with Dan was saying, I had an uncomfortable experience. He did not share his continually expressed gratitude for his experience. Yeah, he literally did do that, especially in the follow-up film where Aubrey said, I posted like that I was thankful to go on. That's because I didn't want to be harassed, and that's because I wanted to promote my stuff. He did not share his second attempt of volunteering to go on the show. He literally did. He said that I didn't get to do what I wanted to do. Let me come on to the show to do what I wanted to do. He did not share his excitement and express gratitude for second appearance. Okay, like he said that in his second video. None of this was mentioned. It appears that he's trying to convince onlookers that these truths vary from his perceived reality, but quite honestly, the signs for clout are all there. So once again, this person's saying, I'm so sick of people weaponizing SA to try to like validate someone's opinions, but let me weaponize SA to invalidate this person's opinions because I'm the expert on consent because I was SA'd. And now this person's saying that he had a bad experience, left out some things that support the idea that he had a bad experience. Thus, he's lying about it. And I am a survivor of SA, so I know all about consent and I know all about bad experiences. He mentions on his second appearance that the funding for his documentary would be closing 2 weeks after the live episode, but it clearly took much longer than that. His views were dismal in comparison to his H3 callout video. What? Views were dismal? Oh, his views on his videos. Okay, I thought she meant like his personal outlook on the world. Once he sounded the dog whistle for ableism, he probably assumed attention, podcast opportunities, and renewed interest in this documentary were sure to follow. Okay, so now you are just using zero evidence and ascribing intention to this person off of nothing. I mean, obviously, when you are posting stuff to the internet, you're expecting people to watch your stuff. But saying that you had a bad experience on a show, saying that Aubrey posting that video is just for clout, and that he didn't actually have a bad experience on his show is like totally unfounded. This is not a new formula. It's just upsetting to watch it happen to one of my favorite content creators. Again, we have like this Ethan Klein exceptionalism where, yeah, Aubrey's great. He's always been good. He's always stood for good things. But because he's criticizing Ethan Klein, that means he's a shitty person now. I believe all of us are capable of being victims and perpetrators, unknowingly or otherwise. Some situations of violated consent are cut and dry, but most are murky, leaving all parties confused and potentially ashamed of how to move forward. It is your right to address situations when you have been violated. It is possible to say this situation made me feel icky, and I totally understand that you may not have known because of the way I reacted. It is possible to respond, I get it, I never want you to feel that way, it won't happen again. For those seeking to mend, this is how it would have played out. Aubrey just wanted cloud, plain and simple. Edit grammar. Okay, so that's hilarious. It's like, so the perpetrator in this situation would have said, I get it, I'd never want you to feel that way, it won't happen again. Okay, so Aubrey did say, yeah, this appearance made me feel bad. And then in this person's perfect world, Ethan Klein would have been like, oh, like I didn't realize that you felt that way. But I'm going to make sure that it doesn't happen again with you. Would you like to come onto my show and talk about it? Instead, Ethan's like, well, actually, you said that you had a good time, so fuck you. Like, you're lying now. You said you had a good time because you were promoting your movie and you wanted people to go like watch your movie from my audience. That had to be the truth because you were nice to me. But now that you're being not nice to me, again, he didn't actually criticize Ethan Klein at all. He just said he had a bad experience on Ethan Klein's show. I guess he said Ethan's having a public crash out on YouTube and that pissed Ethan off. But I mean, whatever. It's so fucking stupid. Like, he literally just said he had a bad experience on the show and people are freaking the fuck out about it. So honestly, anyone who wants to criticize Aubrey for making a video saying he felt bad about going on Ethan's show, they should just, I guess, watch my content because Ethan is totally unable to accurately comprehend writing, videos that people make, audio, music, unable to read articles, unable to read like people's subtitles and their videos, unable to read comments. Like, he's just kind of a dumbass and he just operates off of like being vindictive and spiteful to people. So you're not going to you're not really going to get an accurate depiction of what's happening if you watch his video, but watch my video, watch my content. Ethan, platform me, buddy. Platform me. Come on. You always say people don't read your stuff. They don't watch the full context of things. I just spent 3 hours reacting to your shit, dude. Platform me. Please platform me, Ethan. Come on. Anyway, guys, I'm going to call it for here. I might watch like the Mika's rhetoric segment of the podcast later on, but to be honest, I don't know that much about it. So I feel like I want to be able to give it as much justice. I also don't like, I don't think Mika's rhetoric was the greatest of videos in the world. Did kind of see a lot of rambling, but okay, whatever. Like, I think the only real criticism that I can give the podcast crew is that they're being kind of evil and bullying on it. But anyway, let me know if you want me to cover that. I'll definitely like keep up with Ethan's content hatred against Hassan. Now that I'm invested in this Aubrey thing, I'm gonna keep up with that too, just because it's so crazy. So crazy how much like he's attacking Aubrey and other people that are supporting Aubrey. But anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Spread this video. I'm going to try to edit down some important segments from this video so that it's more digestible for people. Definitely like the email thing where Ethan just disproves his entire point. Like the stream, comment, share it with other people, and thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your night, everyone. Talk to you later.